Paldies Tev, Tēvs.
Thank you, Holy Spirit.
Paldies Svētajam garam.
Thank you,
Paldies,
Jesus,
Jēzu.
our beloved bridegroom.
Mūsu mīļotais līgavaini.
Thank you for your presence here,
Paldies par Tavu klātbūtni šeit,
for your kindness,
par Tavu labestību,
for your affection,
par Tavu
for your revelation.
piemīlību, par Tavu atklātību,
Thank you for your very presence in the midst of our praises.
par Tavu klātbūtni mūsu slavas dziesmu laikā.
For by your Holy Spirit you inhabit the praises
Svētā gar spēkā Tu esi klātesošs šajā slavā,
and you live in them
un Tu dzīvo tajās.
and you live and are alive in us.
Tu dzīvo mūsu dzīvē.
Bless this congregation.
Svētī šo draudzi,
Bless this house of God.
svētī šo Dieva namu,
Inspire its leadership.
iedvesmo tā vadību,
Anoint its leaders
svaidi tās vadītājus
and bring the glory of the Lord that it might fill this house.
atved tā kunga slavu, lai tā piepildu šo namu.
Amen.
Āmen.
You may be seated.
Jūs varat apsēsties.
Good morning, everybody.
Labs rīts jums visiem!
I have to look at all your wonderful faces and
Es skatos jūs brīnišķīgajās
Remember them.
sejās un atceros tās.
what a privilege it is to sit once again under the incredibly inspired leadership of this worship leader and her team.
Kāda privilēģija
Halleluja.
šeit sēdēt šajā
Halleluja.
svētītajā slavēšanā.
Hallelujah. I was so inspired I had to sit down and write.
Es biju tik iedvesmota, ka man vajadzēja apsēsties un pierakstīt.
Really.
Tiešām.
And there's a couple of things I need to say to you this morning
Un man ir pāris lietas, kas man tev ir jāpasaka šajā rītā.
that God revealed to me in the
Ko Dievs man
worship
ir atklājis šajā slavēšanas
before
laikā.
we actually begin on our message here.
Pirms mēs sākam vēsti šodienas.
The first is this tree over here.
Pirmais ir šis koks.
I have to tell you a little story.
Man jums jāizstāst kāds stāsts.
About 10 months ago,
Kādus 10 mēnešus atpakaļ
it was February,
bija februāris,
cold,
vēss, augsts,
snowy outside.
sniegs snigārā.
February is traditionally very cold month.
Tradicionāli februārs viņas dzīvesvietā ir ļoti augsts.
And I was doing something as spiritual as putting my laundry in the washing machine.
Un es darīju kaut ko tik ļoti garīgu, kā noliku savu veļu liku mazgāties.
And suddenly I heard all this noise out in my yard.
Un pēkšņi es dzirdu lielu troksni savā pagalmā.
And my yard has big, huge trees on each side of it. Big ones, really big
Manā
ones.
pagalmā ir 2 lieli koki katrā sānā.
Yeah, 60 to 100 meters high.
60 līdz 100 metru augstumā, milzīgi.
But they were like this tree.
Bet viņi bija līdzīgi kā šis
The
koks,
leaves were gone.
kuram lapas bija
They
nokartušas.
were in winter.
Jau bija ziemas periodā,
Snow on the branches.
jau sniegs uz zariem.
And I went to look outside.
Es izgāju ārā apskatīties.
And suddenly I was so startled. I thought I was seeing things.
Un pēkšņi es biju tik satraukta, pārsteigta, ka man likās, ka man jau rēgojas kaut kas.
The whole backyard, which is
Viss
very big,
pagalms, kas ir ļoti liels,
was full of hundreds
bija pilns ar
of
simtiem
birds.
putnu.
Birds.
Putni.
Not ordinary birds.
Nevis parasti putni,
Birds like that.
bet tādi putni.
Brilliantly colored birds.
Brīnišķīgi krāsaini
Red,
putni.
blue.
Sarkani, zili,
Green.
zaļi.
Incredibly exotic birds. I've never
Neticami
seen
eksotiski putni. Es
before.
tādus nebiju pirms tam redzējusi.
Hundreds of them.
Simtiem tādu putnu.
And they were flying and flying in unison, flying in
Viņi
pattern,
lidoja
breaking
kopā,
apart,
vienoti kaut kādās paternās, kā viņi
sitting
skaitās.
together on the limbs and shaking all their feathers at the same time.
Sēdēja uz zariem un spurināja savas spalvas.
And then lifting off and flying again, chasing one another,
Tad pacēlās
and
augšā un
playing
steidzās
games in the
viens pret otram
sky,
un spēlēja spēles debesīs.
and singing,
Un dziedāja,
and singing.
un
And singing.
dziedāja, un dziedāja.
I am absolutely mesmerized.
Es biju pilnīgi apburta.
And I said, where did these birds come from?
No kurienes šie putni ir radušies?
And why are they here?
Un kāpēc viņi ir
In
šeit?
February.
Februārī.
I said, I'm going to take a walk and see if they're in anybody else's yard.
Es domāju, es iziešu pastaigāties, pārbaudīšu, ka viņi ir arī citos pagalmos.
And I went outside and I walked up and down our block.
Es izgāju ārā un gāju pa ielu,
No, there were no birds in their yards.
un viņu pagalmos nebija neviena putna.
No birds.
Nemaz.
Just a winter scene.
Tikai tāda ziemas ainava.
These birds were there for 2 weeks.
Šie putni tur bija 2 nedēļas.
Only in my yard.
Tikai manā pagalmā.
And one day they just went,
Un vienā dienā viss prom.
disappeared.
Pazuda.
And that afternoon I had gone to the store and I came back.
Tajā pēcpusdienā es biju gājusi uz veikalu un atnācu atpakaļ.
And there are 3 steps up to my front door.
Un bija 3 pakāpieni līdz manām durvīm.
And then my front door is very close to the top step. You can reach it.
Un manas mājas durvis ir ļoti tuvu pie tā pirmā pakāpiena.
And I came home
Es atnācu mājās
and there was a bird.
un
A
bija
single
putns.
bird, one bird.
Tikai viens.
And this bird had a huge, beautiful red breast like a robin.
Un šim putnam bija liela sarkana krūstiņa.
Like that, yeah.
Tāds zīlītājā.
And this bird was sitting on that top step.
Un šī zīlīte sēdēja uz šī pirmā pakāpiena.
Directly facing the door.
Tieši pret durvīm.
Not out to the yard or the... No, directly as if he had rung the doorbell and was waiting for me to answer.
Un nevis tā netīši, bet tā speciāli skatās uz durvīm, tā kā viņš būtu tikko piezvanījis un gaida, kad es atvēršu.
Really, I never saw anything like this.
Es to nekad tādu neesmu pamanījis, redzējusi.
And I'm staring at this bird.
Un es skatos uz to putnu.
What is he doing there?
Ko viņš tur dara?
And I waited a few minutes. I thought maybe he'll fly away in a minute, you know.
Es gaidīju pāris minūtes, varbūt viņš pārdomās un lidos. Un
And then I can bring my groceries
tad es
inside the
ienesīšu
house.
savus iepirkumus mājā.
But he didn't.
Bet viņš to
And he
nedarīja.
didn't move either.
Un viņš arī nekustējās.
Like that.
Tāds.
Totally expectant.
Pilnīgās gaidās.
Finally, after a while, I said, I have to go inside.
Pēc mirklis man ir jāiet iekšā.
So I took my packages
Es paņēmu savus
and I
maisiņus.
tried to go carefully.
Un es uzmanīgi centos.
And I thought, well, when I get close to him, he'll go.
Un es domāju, tad, kad es viņam būšu tuvu, tad jau
He
viņš
did not
lidos
go.
prom. Bet viņš viņš turpina skatīties.
And finally, I said, excuse me, but I need to get
Un
into
beidzot
my
teica,
house here.
piedodiet, man jātiek
Excuse me, don't
mājās.
mean to bother you,
atvainojiet.
but
Es
okay.
negribu tevi traucēt.
Yeah. And I squeezed into my house
Un es iespiedos pa durvju spraugu savā mājā.
and I shut the door.
Un aizvēru
I
durvis.
thought, oh, well, surely he's going now.
Tagad viņš tiešām būs prom.
And I put some groceries away
Noliku savus iepirkumus.
and I kind of looked out. Oh my gosh,
Un
he is still
paskatos pa
there.
logu, viņš vēl joprojām ir tur.
And finally, I decided
Visbeidzot es nolēmu,
This whole thing was very definitely a spiritual prophetic message.
ka šī noteikti ir kāda garīga pravietiska vēsts,
And I needed to go see that bird.
un man bija jāredz šis putns.
So I went to the door
Es iegāju pie
and
durvīm,
I squeezed outside.
atkal izlīdu
And he
ārā,
still,
un viņš vēl joprojām.
and I said,
Es teicu,
did you want to say something to me?
vai tu man kaut ko gribi pateikt?
In my spirit, I heard as clear as a bell.
Un manā garā es dzirdēju skaidri kā zvanu.
Goodbye.
Atā,
See you in the spring.
tiksimies pavasarī.
And he flew away. So I started praying
Es sāku lūgt
over what this meant.
par šo,
And through prayer and some study, I
caur lūgšanu un caur
got a spiritual message.
mācīšanos. Es saņēmu to garīgo vēstu, ko tas
and the
nozīmē.
message was this.
Un šāda bija šī vēsts.
It will be an early spring. Prepare.
Būs agrs pavasaris. Sagatavojies.
It will be an early spring.
Būs agrs
Prepare for
pavasaris.
it.
Sagatavojies.
At the same time,
Tajā pašā laikā,
within just days of that,
pēc pāris dienām,
I had 2 trees, fig trees.
man bija 2 koki,
2
vīģu
fig
koki.
trees
2 vīģu koki,
that were in my basement in the dark wintering.
kas atradās manā pagrabā pārziemot ziemu, lai
Which
nenosalst.
is what fig trees need to do.
Jo
in the
tas
winter.
vīģes kokiem ir jādara, viņiem vajag to
They were
ziemu.
in their pots,
Viņi bija savos
in
podos,
the dark,
tumsā,
waiting for spring.
gaidīja pavasari.
And I came down the next day and
Nākamajā dienā es nogāju lejā pagrabā un skatos.
new life is sprouting up.
Jauna dzīvība dīkst ārā.
Not one,
Nevis 1,
but 2.
2.
And within very short time,
Un
those
ļoti
new
īsā laikā
sprouts were up like this.
šie 2 asni bija jau tādā garumā,
And these 2 fig trees were growing.
un šie 2 vīģes koki auga.
I called my daughter-in-law, who is a unbelievable
Es zvanīju savai
gardener, I
dēla
should say,
sievai.
but she's much more than that. So
Kas
she
ir
knows
brī-
everything that there is about nature. Okay.
Man kauns viņa teikt, ka viņa ir dārzniece, jo viņa zina daudz vairāk par visu dabas
I took a
pasauli.
picture of them.
Es uzņēmu
I
fototēlu,
said, Simona, what am I supposed to do?
aizsūtīju savai dēla
It's
sievai
February.
Simonai un prasu, kas tas ir februāris.
And she's, oh, for goodness sakes, bring them up into the light.
Ārprāts, nes viņus ārā no tumsas.
They
ved
need
viņu
light and
gaismā.
water now. They're
Viņiem
growing.
tagad vajadzīga
Bring them up.
gaisma un ūdens. Cel ārā no tās tumsas.
This pot with these fig trees was
Šis pods ar to
And very
vīģes
heavy.
koku ir milzīgs un smags. Ārprāts.
okay. So I got a sort of dolly, managed to put it on there,
Atradu tādu, uz kuru var tā kā uzlikt kaut kā, lai
and it
varētu
was very stormy weather.
pavilkt. Bija ļoti vētrains laiks.
And I had to go up a hill
Un man bija jāved viņa
to
augšā
get
pa
out of the
kalnu,
basement.
lai
Yeah.
dabūtu ārā no pagraba.
And I said, it's too icy, it's too snowy, I can't do this.
Un es saku, ir pārāk daudz ledus, es to nevaru izdarīt.
I have to wait till this stormy stuff stops. Yeah.
Man ir jāsagaida, ka tas vējainais, vētrainais laiks beigsies.
So after a couple of days, it was just cold.
Tad pēc pāris dienām bija
But
tikai
no
augsts,
storm.
augsts.
And enough snow, I could get some traction, and I pulled this up this hill.
Nu, tad beidzot bija pietiekami daudz sniega, un es varēju, tā teikt, neslīdot, pavilkt ārā to podu.
Very, very cold.
Bija ļoti augsts.
Yeah, probably 15, minus 15.
Mīnus
Yeah.
15 grādi.
And I pulled it around to the front so I could bring it in my front door because I couldn't get it in anywhere else. It was too
Es
big.
viņu velku visai mājā apkārt pa parādas durvīm, jo citās durvīs tas pods neiet iekšā.
And on that same step where the bird was,
Un uz tā paša pakāpiena, kur bija tas
the pot
putns,
fell.
tas pods nokrita, nogāzās.
And some of the dirt came out, and I went, oh!
Izkrita zem, un man bija, ko darīt?
And I righted it, and I packed all the the dirt down again, but these little trees, these new ones now were very fragile.
Nu, bija nogāzies, bet šie mazie asni ir ārkārtīgi trausli.
And I was afraid I had killed them now.
Un man bija bail, es esmu viņus nogalinājusi.
But I got them inside. I put them in a little place for life.
Ieliku tādā gaišā vietā.
And within hours they went.
Un pēc stundas viņi visi bija plakā.
And I was horrified.
Un man bija šausmīgi.
And I was crying.
Es
and
raudāju.
I said, no, you can't die. I will not let you die. No, you cannot die.
Neļaušu mirt.
And I started praying for these little trees.
Es sāku lūgt par šiem kokiem.
Who I named Mr. and Mrs. Figgy.
Un tad es nosaucu Misters un Mrs. Vīģīte.
And I called my daughter-in-law again.
Un atkal zvanu savai dēla sievai.
I showed her what had happened and she said they're going to
Parādu, kas
die.
noticis, un viņa saka, viņi nomirs.
I said, no, they're not.
Es saku, nē, viņi nemirs.
I said, no, they are not. And I'm not calling you again.
Un es tev nezvanīšu vairāk.
Because these trees are not going to die.
Jo šie koki nemirs.
So I started praying for them
Es lūdzu par viņiem.
multiple times a day.
Vairākas
Every
reizes
time
dienā.
I walked past this, I
Katru reizi,
prayed for
kad
them.
gāju garām, es lūdzu.
I played wonderful, great grow music for them day and night.
Es viņiem atskaņoju brīnišķīgu augšanas mūziku dienu un nakti.
I talked to them,
Es ar viņiem runāju.
gave them all kinds of personal affection,
Samīļoju viņus regulāri ar
kept
vārdiem.
encouraging them.
Iedrošināju viņus.
And little by little,
Un maz pamazītiņām.
and I took another picture
Es paņēmu vēl vienu fotogrāfiju, nofotografēju.
and texted it to my daughter.
Aizsūtīju savai dēla sievai.
And the resurrection power
Un augšām
Of
celšanās
Christ
spēks no
is still
žēlastības
working.
vēl joprojām strādā.
These trees will
Šie
live
koki
and produce fruit.
un nesīs augļus.
So, going back to this whole prophecy,
Atgriežoties par to pravietojumu.
and I have been the whole year still trying to discern the import of that
Visu gadu es cenšos
prophecy.
izšķirt, saprast to uzsvaru, svarīgumu tajā,
It will be an early spring.
ka būs
Prepare.
agrs pavasarus un esi sagatavojies.
And during the worship, I looked at this tree.
Un ienākot šajā slavēšanā, es ieraugu šo koku
I suddenly understood everything.
un pēkšņi es visu sapratu.
I won't go into it because it would take too much time, but it
Es
It
neiešu
fits.
dziļumā,
like that
bet tas tādā veidā, kā
into a previous
piedarās
prophecy and a dream God gave
par
me
iepriekšējo pravietojumu, ko Dievs
18
man
months
deva
before that.
18 mēnešu pirms.
Fits perfectly into that. It's a confirmation.
Ideāli sakrīt ar iepriekšējo un ir kā apstiprinājums,
It's a witness, a second witness.
kas ir kā otrā liecība.
And what he was saying to me is,
Un tas, ko viņš man saka,
it's very wintry out there.
ārā ir augsta ziema.
The world is moving into a cold, cold winter
Pasaule iet augstā ziemā.
of evil
Ļaunumā,
that has now not so much has been increased as it has become visible
ne tik
and
daudz,
in
ka
our
tas ir
atmosphere.
audzis, bet ka tas ir parādījies, tas ir redzams
And
mūsu
we are feeling
atmosfērā.
overwhelmed
Un mēs sajūtam to pārspīlēto
the
pārņemumu
growth
Mūs
and the
pārņem tas
pervasiveness
un tā
of
perversums,
evil,
kāds ir ļaunums.
and the world calling evil good
Un pasauli, kas sauc ļaunu par labu
and calling good bad.
un saucot labu par ļaunu.
And we are feeling, what can I do? This is
Un mēs
winter.
jūtam, ko mums darīt?
There
Ir
are no
ziema.
leaves on my tree.
Nav neviena
There's
lapa
no
uz mana
fruit
koka.
hanging on the tree.
Nav neviena augļa
It's
uz šī
winter.
koka. Ir ziema.
What am I to do?
Ko lai es daru?
The message is
Vēsts ir,
that we are preparing
ka mēs
To
gatavojamies
overcome
pārvarēt
evil.
ļaunumu.
in Christ.
Kristu.
This is coming
Tas nāk
hugely.
liels.
There is going to be a worldwide revival.
Būs pasaules plašumā
Like the world has never seen.
atmoda, kādu pasauli vēl nav redzējusi.
We need to prepare
Mums ir jāsagatavojas
our skills
mūsu
in
prasmes,
flying, in singing,
lidojot, dziedot.
because we are going to be brilliant
Mēs būtu
contrasts
Briljanta tāds kontrasts tam visam pārsteidzošs
in this world
šajā pasaulē.
to the evil which is going to start to
Tam ļaunumam, kas nāks
consume
un
people's
pārņems
mind,
cilvēku prātu,
souls, and
dvēseli
bodies.
un ķermeni.
We are the birds
Mēs esam putni,
that are going to sing
Kas
in the midst
dziedās.
of the cold winter.
augstās ziemas vidū.
The most beautiful song
Viskaistāko
the
dziesmu,
world has ever heard,
kādu pasauli ir dzirdējusi,
because they're the songs of Christ.
jo tā ir Kristus
His
dziesma.
love for his bride,
Viņa mīlestība uz
his
viņa
purpose,
līgavu,
destiny for her,
viņas liktenis, identitāti, ko viņš viņai devis.
his restoration and righteous governance of his creation, this planet,
Tā atjaunošana un pareiza valdība šajā radībā.
his unending, life-changing, resurrecting
Viņa
blood
nemainīgā, dzīvi mainojušā,
available to
augšām
us.
celšanā asins, kas ir mums pieejama.
The Satanists drink blood.
Sātanisti dzer asinis.
Blood is huge to the Satanists.
Sātanistiem
Huge.
ļoti svarīgs ir
It's in
asinis.
all of their ceremonies,
Visās
all
viņu
of their
ceremonijās,
occult practices.
okultajā
It's
praksē.
the main feature
Tā ir
of
tā
their activities.
galvenā sastāvdaļa viņu praksē.
Because
Tāpēc,
they fear the blood of Christ.
ka viņi baidās no Jēzus Kristus asins.
They fear us partaking
Viņi
of the blood
baidās,
of Christ,
kad
which we're
mēs
going to
saņemam
do
Jēzus
after this.
Kristus asins, ko mēs šodien darīsim.
Because they understand
Jo viņi saprot
the
spēku,
resurrecting
augšām
power
celšanās spēku
of that blood,
no šīm asinīm.
the life that it brings.
Tā dzīvība, ko tā nes.
They're terrified of this.
Viņi ir pārbijušies no tā.
And we are going to sing
Un mēs
That
dziedāsim
song
šo
loud,
dziesmu.
clean,
Skaļi, skaidri,
courageously.
drosmīgi.
Carry not for our life
Nerūpojoties par savu
the
dzīvi.
gospel of Christ to be
Nesot
flown
Jēzus evaņģēliju
all
priekšu, lai tas
over
plūst
this
pāri
earth,
visai šai
all
pasaulē.
over this
Pār
planet.
visai
There will
šai
be
planētai.
nowhere we cannot
Nebūs
fly.
neviena vieta, kur mēs nevaram lidot.
And they will see us because we will
Un
be
viņi mūs redzēs,
brilliantly
jo
in
mēs būsim
contrast
Pārsteidzošs kontrasts
to the ideologies of the day,
tās dienas ideoloģijai,
to the corruption of the day,
tās dienas korupcijai,
to the propagation of evil
tā,
of the day.
kad ļaunums aug un vairojas tajā dienā.
That's the fullness of that prophecy.
Tā ir tā pilnība šajā pravietojumā.
And 8 months, 10 months after,
8,
was
9
given.
mēneši vēlāk,
under an anointed worship,
pēc svētītas slavēšanas,
God completes his revelation of that.
Dievs piepilda savu, pabeidz šo pravietojumu.
Don't ever think that if God has spoken to you prophetically,
Nekad nedomā, ka ja Dievs ar tevi pravietiski runājis,
that if you don't see something that relates to that prophecy immediately, that prophecy was a mistake, was
Ka-
null and void.
ka tev liekas, ka tu tikko pravietoji, un tev liekas, nav uzreiz nekur atbild, nekur neatskaņojās, tas nenozīmē, ka tas pravietojums nav patiess.
Prophecy has its own timeline.
Pravietojumi ir sava laika līnija.
Just keep praying into it.
Turpini lūgt.
Maybe small portion at a time will be revealed to you.
Varbūt
Just
maza
keep
porcija tev
praying
tikai
into it.
atklāsies kādā laikā. Turpini lūgt.
And I want to tell you one more thing.
Un vēl viena lieta es gribu jums teikt.
The second thing
Otrā,
fits the first thing.
kas ir pieskaņojis otrai, pirmajai lietai.
I want to tell you about perhaps a fact, a historical fact that maybe you are not aware of.
Es gribu jums pateikt vēsturisku faktu, par kuru jūs varbūt nezināt.
After this service, we are going to take the Lord's Supper. We're going to take communion.
Pēc dievkalpojuma mums būs vakarēdiens.
Because we are in a blood covenant
Jo
with our
mēs
God.
esam asins derībā ar savu Dievu.
A blood covenant given to Abraham and
Asins
between
derība, kas
Abraham and
dota
God.
Abrahamam un Dievu, ar Dievu.
If you haven't read that
Ja jūs to neesat izlasījuši,
story
šo
in
stāstu
Genesis lately, you should go back and read it today.
vecajā derībā, kad to vajadzētu izlasīt.
Full of
Grāmatās.
incredible symbology.
Pilna ar neticamu simboliku.
And then we begin to understand why Abraham could do what he did when it came to Isaac.
Tad mēs varam saprast, kāpēc Ābrahams darīja to, ko viņš darīja ar savu dēlu Īzaku.
So blood covenants, I'm speaking historically now,
Es tagad runāju vēsturiski šie asins derības
amongst the tribes and
starp ciltīm
the people of the Middle East,
un vidējo austrumu cilvēkiem
were
tautām
among one of the most important, powerful, and significant acts you could engage yourself in.
bija viens no visspēcīgākajiem un visnopietnākajiem svarīgākajām darbībām, ko tu varēji darīt.
You see, we don't understand blood covenants that well
Mēs
because
īsti
we don't do
neizprotam
them.
asins derību tik ļoti, jo mēs tā nedaram.
So I'm going to tell you just a little bit about what a blood covenant really
Tad
was.
es jums pateikšu, kas ir šī asins derība tajā laikā.
So in that nomadic country, you had huge families which were tribes, many generations.
Tajā laikā ir šīs ciltis, kas ir īstenībā milzīgas ģimenes.
They lived in communities that were central to them and
Viņiem ir
worked
tāda kopīga sabiedrība, uz ko viņi strādā un sastrādājās,
to provide for that community.
lai varētu parūpēties par šo kopīgo sabiedrību.
So they didn't live in a land where there was a government at the head and the government could provide for you if you
Viņi
fell
nedzīvoja-
into bad times. No.
Nedzīvoja kaut kādā valstī, vietā, kur ir valdība, un tad, ja ir slikti laiki, tad valdība par tevi rūpējās.
No, there was no government.
Nebija nekāda valdība.
Okay? The only government was the
Vienīgā
self-sustaining tribe.
Bija sevi pašu uzturošā cilts.
And so it provided for its people by doing what it could do.
Un viņa rūpējās par saviem cilvēkiem, darot to, ko viņa var izdarīt.
So let's say you have one tribe living in a rather oasis type area of the desert.
Teiksim, ka viena cilts dzīvo tādā oāzes tipa vietā.
And they were very, 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 very good at growing things.
Un viņam ļoti padodās audzēt.
And so they knew how to grow certain desert food. They knew how to
Viņi zina,
take
kā
from the
audzēt
desert
tūkstneša
landscape and provide food. They're
Kā
very, very,
paņemt no
very good at
tūkstneša,
this.
tā teikt, tos augiem un vides to labāko, ko var ēst.
Certain animals they could raise, and
Viņi
they
varēja
knew
audzināt
how
dzīvniekus,
to get the most out of any animal for
kā
what they
dabūt to
needed, and not
pašu
just food, but for other
labāko un
provisions.
visvairāko no tā dzīvnieka, ko viņi audzēja. Ne tikai ēdienu, bet arī citas preces.
But they were terrible at defending themselves.
Bet viņi bija briesmīgi aizstāvot sevi.
They were not warriors.
Viņi nebija karēvji.
So they were really very bad at the whole spear thing and arrow thing.
Viņi ļoti nepadevās tā šķēpu un tā bultu lieta.
All right? And you have another tribe living 50 miles away. Yeah?
Un ir otra cilts, kas dzīvo kāds 50 jūdzes
And they're
tālāk
in
prom.
hill country, hill sand dune country.
Un
Yeah?
viņiem ir tāda dūnu, tāda smilšu dūnu, kalnaina tāda vide.
They can't grow anything.
Tur nekas neaug.
Nothing grows there.
Nekas tur neaug.
The
Viņi
sand
nevar
just
izaudzēt.
comes and
Smilts
water's
uznāk.
very scarce. And
Ūdens ir maz.
so they have a very difficult time providing actually food
Un
and
viņiem ir grūti sagādāt
commodities that
ēdienu
they
un
need
citas
for their tents and
praktiskas lietas
But
teltīm
they-
dzīvošanai.
are the most expert warriors in the land.
Bet viņi ir eksperti karošanā
They
šajā
know how
zemē.
to protect. They are
Viņi zina, kā
fearsome,
aizsargāt,
and their
viņi ir
enemies fear
drosmīgi,
them,
un
and
ienaidnieki no
they
viņiem
are
baidās.
able to defend
Viņi ir
their community.
spējīgi aizsargāt savu
So,
sabiedrību, savu
The two leaders
komunu.
of these tribes get together
Tad divi cilšu vadoņi no šīm divām
and they say,
ciltīm,
let's do a blood covenant.
un viņi saka, būs mums asins derība savā starpā.
We don't have any food,
Mums nav ēdienu,
but you don't have any protection.
bet tev nav neviena, kas tevi aizsargā.
We'll give you protection
Mēs tev dosim
and
aizsardzību,
you'll share food with us.
un tu dalīsies savā ēdienā
Okay.
ar mums. Labi?
Agreed.
Piekrīt.
Okay, the process was very lengthy and it was very
Process bija garš.
extraordinary.
Ļoti īpašs.
They cut their wrists
Viņi iegriez sev delnā,
and they drained their blood into a
Lūdzu,
large
tev.
bowl.
un viņi iztecināja asins lielā traukā. Bļodā.
And this bowl held both of their bloods.
Un šajā traukā bija viņu abu asinis.
And this blood was mingled together.
Un
Was
šīs
mixed
asinis tika
together.
sajauktas kopā,
And then they each drank from this bowl so that they both drank the same blood that was commingled.
un tad viņi abi dzēra no šī trauka šīs asinis, kas bija sajauktas.
Then they dug a ditch
Tad viņi izraka tādu
and they poured this ditch, this into this ditch
Kanālu.
the rest of the blood.
un bedri kanālu, kurā viņi izlēja
And
pārējās
then
asinis.
they walked through it.
Un viņi
You
izgāja
can see
tam
this
cauri.
in Genesis.
To var redzēt vecie
Read the story of Abraham.
Ābrahama mūzu grāmatās.
They walked through it.
Viņi tam izgāja cauri šīm asinīm.
This was the understanding that we are now one and we will protect and provide for one another.
No tā vajadzēja saprast, ka mēs esam viens vesels un mēs rūpēsimies un aizsargāsim viens otru.
Now, this covenant was so enormously powerful
Šī derība bija tik ļoti spēcīga,
that if you broke it,
ja tu viņu salauzi,
the other tribe would kill you and all of your tribe.
otra cilts nogalinātu tevi un visus tavu ciltu un tavus bērnus.
If you betrayed this covenant,
Ja tu nodevi šo derību,
your life was over and your whole family, your whole tribe was over. They would kill
tava dzīve
everybody.
beidzās un viss tavu ģimenes dzīve beidzās. Visi.
This covenant was so powerful, it was handed down generations to generations
Šī
to,
derība
through
bija tik
hundreds and hundreds
spēcīga,
of years.
ka tā strādāja no paudzes uz paudzes simtiem gadu garumā.
So when those who made this covenant
Ka tie, kas šo derību bija slēguši,
slashed their wrists quite strongly,
pārgriez savas rokas,
they didn't put natural medicine on there to heal the scar and to heal the
viņi
wound.
nelika nekādas dabiskas zāles, lai sadziedātu šo rētu.
Instead, they put a kind of raw mud on there just to stop bleeding, but they didn't want the scar healed.
Tanī vietā viņi ielika kaut kādus vienkārši dubļus uz šīs rētas, lai tā beigtu asiņot, bet lai tā nedzīst.
They wanted the wound to scar over in a very obvious way,
Viņi gribēja, lai šī rēta paliek acīm redzama,
so that when they were out into the land away from their tribe
lai tad, kad viņi ir prom no savas cilts tālumā,
and they met
un viņi satiktu
another group of people,
citu cilvēku grupu,
you have to assume in that environment everybody was an enemy.
un
Everybody.
tajā vidē bija jāpieņem, ka visi citi ir ienaidnieki.
Everybody was quite possibly a murderer and a thief.
Visi citi vislielākā ticamība ir slepkavas un zagļi.
So you were already on guard. Who is
Tu
it?
jau biji tādā piesardzībā, kas viņi ir, ko viņi grib.
Yeah. Am I protected? Can I defend myself?
Vai es esmu aizsargāts, vai es sevi varu aizsargāt.
So when they see that the other people in the distance are actually from the blood
Kad
covenant
viņi ierauga,
tribe
ka tie otri cilvēku grupa ir no tās
that
otras
they are
cilts, ar
in
kuriem ir
covenant
derība,
with,
ar kuriem viņam ir derība,
they do this.
viņi dara tā.
They raise their hands and
Viņi
they
paceļ
show
rokas
their scars.
un parāda savas rētas.
And they say,
Un viņi saka,
I am in blood covenant with you.
man ir asins derība ar tevi.
Know who I am. I'm in
Zini,
blood
kas es
covenant
esmu.
with you.
Man ir asins derība ar tevi.
That's why I raise my hands like this in
Tāpēc es
worship.
ceļu savus rokas šādā veidā.
I'm in blood covenant with you, God.
Man ir asins derība ar tevi,
I'm
Dievs.
yours.
Esmu tava.
I'm yours. I'm in blood covenant with you.
Esmu asins derībā ar tevi. Un tu esi šajā derībā ar mani.
You will never betray your covenant with me.
Tu nenodos savu derību ar mani.
And I pray for the strength. I will never betray my covenant.
Un es lūdzu pēc spēka, kad es nekad nelaužu šo derību ar tevi.
Haven't you ever wondered why the scars in Jesus' hands never were healed at resurrection?
Vai jums nebija jādomā, kāpēc tās krustā tās rētas no viņa brūcēm nebija dziedināts, tad, kad viņš nāca parādījies augšām cēlies?
I'm in blood covenant with you.
Man ir asins derība ar jums.
Remember,
Atceries,
my death
mana nāve
was a covenant with
bija
you.
derība ar tevi.
This actually feeds into now our message,
Un nu jau tas aiziet uz mūsu vēsti, sadarās kopā.
which is entitled The Pathway to Our Destiny.
Kas tiek saukta kā ceļš uz mūsu likteni.
That pathway extends from Ezekiel 16
Šis ceļš sniedzās no Ezekiela 16. nodaļas
all the way
Ezekiel.
to Revelation 22.
līdz pat atklāsmes 22. nodaļai.
I want to take you through this pathway,
Es gribu jūs vest šajā ceļā,
and I'm going to give you 5 words as your milestones, okay?
un es gribu jums dot 5 vārdus, kā
So,
tādus
if you are
galvenos
a
pieturas
note-taker,
punktus.
write
Ja
these
jūs
down.
esat tādi, kas pierakstus rada, tad
And we're going to
pierakstiet,
move through these milestones
un
and
tad mēs
see
iesim cauri šiem pieturas punktiem.
what our destiny is and how we get there.
Kas ir mūsu liktenis un kā mēs tur nonākam?
So, the first word is outcast.
Pirmais vārds ir izraidītais. Jeb izraidīts.
The second word is identity.
Otrais vārds ir identitāte.
The third word is gifting.
Trešais vārds ir dāvana, dāvanas došana.
The fourth word is character.
Ceturtais vārds ir raksturs.
And the fifth and final word is reward.
Un piektais pēdējais vārds ir balva jeb alga. Balva jeb alga.
So if we start with a prologue of an overall will of God, we will start
Ja
with
mēs
Ephesians
sākam-
1.
Lai saprastu tādu Dieva gribu, mēs sāktu ar Efeziešiem pirmo nodaļu.
So I want to remind you
Gribu jums
that the
atgādināt,
logos,
ka Dieva vārds,
the word spoken
Logos.
by Christ
kas ir vārds,
and
ko saka
manifests
Jēzus,
into being,
un piepildās, kad viņš ir esošs būtībā.
is
Ir
not
reāls.
about verbal language.
Tas nav par verbālu valodu.
The Bible doesn't, it's not the words in the Bible.
Bībele nav tā, ka tie ir vārdi Bībelē.
It's the manifestation of the intentional will of God
Tā
for
ir
this
Dieva gribas
planet
manifestācija uz šo
that is
pasauli,
symbolized in those words.
kura tiek simbolizēta šajos vārdos.
Yeah, this is really important.
Dieva gribas manifestācija.
So
Tas ir
when we
ļoti
read
svarīgi.
Ephesians 1,
Kad lasām Efeziešiem pirmo nodaļu,
this is one of the most magnificent places in the Bible where the intentional will
Mēs
for
tur redzam-
God's creatures on this planet is symbolized.
šī ir viena no tām vietām, kur Dieva nodoma parādīšanās dzīvē ir ļoti simbolizēta un skaidrs redzama.
And in the first 3 verses, we see
Pirmās 3 rakstu vietās mēs redzam,
the Spirit says,
ka gars saka,
before the foundations of this
Pirms
world.
pamatu tika likti.
Before. Not after the
Pirms.
6 days of creation.
Nevis pēc
Before
6 radošanas dienām, bet pirms
this.
vēl radošana. Pirms tas viss vēl bija.
I
Es
have prepared
biju sagatavojis
a pure,
tīru,
chaste
šķīstu līgavu
for my son,
savam dēlam,
who will govern
kas valdīs
this creation
šo
with
radību
my son.
ar manu dēlu.
Folks, the gospel is no more complicated than that.
Cilvēki, evaņģēlijs nav sarežģītāks par to.
That is the point of why we are here.
Tas arī ir visa tā jēga, kāpēc mēs te esam.
You have whole philosophies,
Ir veselas filozofijas,
sciences,
zinātnes,
psychological sciences,
psiholoģiskas zinātnes,
whole world full of organizations dealing with
pasaulē pilna ar
psychological
organizācijām,
attitudes toward
Kas,
purpose
kas strādā ar psiholoģisku
and
attieksmi
meaning
pret
in
mērķi
life.
un dzīves jēgu.
You have people obsessing about their own
Tev
personal
ir cilvēki,
relevance
kas
to
ir
this world
apsēsti
and
ar savu radniecību, ar šo
Why
pastāvu
am I
savām attiecībām.
here?
Kāpēc es šeit esmu?
what does my life mean?
Ko man
What,
dzīve nozīmē?
what could I do? And
Ko lai es daru?
I was born at the wrong
Vai
time.
piedzimu nepareizajā laikā?
Goes on and on and on.
Un
And on.
vēl un vēl un vēl turpinās.
And it is no more complicated than Ephesians 1, 1-3.
Nu, nav svarīgāk kā Efeziešiem 1. nodaļa, 1.3. pants.
You are a created
Tu esi radīts būtība
for a specific.
specifiskam mērķim.
Nobody should ask what my purpose is.
Nevienam nav jājautā, kāds ir mans
It's
mērķis.
written for you.
Tas tev ir pierakstīts priekšā.
You are to move through this existence on this earth
Tu esi paredzēts,
materially
ka tu ej cauri šai pasaules materiālai eksistencei,
to become chaste,
lai
pure,
kļūtu
holy.
šķīsts, tīrs, svēts,
so that
lai tad
you can become one
tu kļūtu par vienu
with
veselu
Christ
ar
and
Jēzu
rule
Kristu un valdītu
magnificently and govern
brīnišķīgi un valdītu,
this earth.
pārvaldītu šo zemi.
If we go a little bit further in Ephesians 1, 17 or 18-22,
Ja mēs dodamies uz priekšu, uz 17. 22. pantu,
then we really find the most, for me, this is
Tad tas ir
truly one of the
man
5 most
vienam no
magnificent
5
prayers in the Bible.
visbrīnišķīgākajām
I pray it
lūkšanām.
every day,
Šo lūkšanu es lūdzu
sometimes
katru dienu,
multiple times a day.
dažreiz vairākas reizes dienā.
Paul is praying,
Pāvils lūdz,
and he says
viņš
to
lūdz,
the
saka,
church at Ephesus,
Efezas
I pray
baznīcai, traucēji. Es lūdzu,
that the spirit of wisdom
ka gudrības gars
and revelation,
un atklāsmes gars,
mind of Christ and the spiritual revelation of where
Jēzus
you
Kristus prāts un atklāsme nāk par to, kur jūs esat,
are, will be over you,
ir jums pāri.
so that
Tad,
you
lai
will
jūs
know.
zinātu,
Now we have to define that word know.
nu tagad mums jādefinē
It's
šis
just a
vārds
symbol.
zināt.
That word means a
Tas
lot
ir
of different
simbols.
things
Tas nozīmē daudz dažādas lietas,
depending on how you use it.
atkarībā kādu to lieto.
It's used in the Bible, both Old and New Testaments,
Bībelē,
mostly,
gan vecā,
not
gan jaunā
exclusively, but
derībā,
mostly,
bet ne ekskluzīvi, bet pārsvarā
to mean an in-depth, intimate experience
ir
with something.
dziļa, intīma jau pieredze ar kaut ko.
Experiential,
Tā ir pieredze
not
zināšanas.
mental.
Nevis tikai
It's
mentāli
not talking
prāta
about knowing an
Tas nerunā
algebraic
par to, ka
formula, so you
tu
can
zini
pass your
algebras
math
formulu,
test.
lai varētu nolikt
It's not talking
matemātikā
about an
eksāmenu.
intellectual knowing.
Tā nav intelektuāla
It's talking
zināšana.
about an experiential,
Tā ir
intimate.
pieredzes,
Knowing.
bagāta, intīma zināšana.
So it is
sapratne.
often used as the expression of a husband knowing his
To
wife
parasti.
sexually and intimately.
Lieto, kad
Knowing
vīrs
her.
pazīst savu sievu seksuāli intīmi.
Yeah. Isaac went in and knew his wife.
Īzaks gāja iepazīt savu sievu,
Yeah.
Rebeku.
It is used over and over with us knowing
Un tas
Christ.
atkārtojas vēlreiz un vēlreiz, ka mēs zinām Kristu.
Last night at the performance, I was asked
Vakardien.
to say a little bit about how I found Christ. And
Pēc izrādes man paprasīja, pasāst, kā tu iepazini Jēzu Kristu.
one of the things I revealed is that until I was 19,
Viena no lietām, ko es atklāju,
I had a great deal
man nebija
of
19 gadi.
intellectual knowledge of Christ
Vecumā pirms
and the
19
Bible
gadiem man
and
bija
my
daudz
faith.
zināšanas, gan par ticību, kā par Jēzu, par baznīcu.
And considered myself a very strong Christian, I
Un
would
es
say.
uzskatīju, ka es esmu stipra kristiete.
But I didn't know Christ.
Bet es nezināju Dievu.
So it only took one event in my life at 19
Un man
to
vajadzēja tikai
break
vienu
my faith.
notikumu manā ticības dzīvē
break
19 gadu vecumā, lai salauztu manu ticību.
For me to say Christianity
Lai
is
man,
a
es pēc
hoax,
tam teiktu, ka kristietība ir
and I'm
vilti,
going to walk away from it.
afēra, un es no tās
And I did
atsakos.
for the next 11 years.
Un es aizgāju 11 gadus prom.
Intellectual knowledge is not what Ephesians 1 is talking about.
Intelektuālas zināšanas nav tas, par ko runā Efeziešiem 1.
He's talking
nodaļā.
about an experience.
Viņš runā par
See,
pieredzi.
nobody can ever take your experiences away from you,
Neviens nevar noņemt tavu pieredzi no tevis prom,
but they can take your ideas away.
bet tavas idejas gan var
They
noņemt.
can, definitely steal your ideas, change your
Noteikti var
ideas.
mainīt,
debunk your
pielabot,
ideas.
Pilnībā apgāst tavas idejas,
They can't take your experiences away.
bet tavu pieredzi viņi
Because you
nenoņems.
experienced it, body, soul,
Jo
and
tu esi to
spirit.
pieredzējis dzīvē, tu tur biji klāt ķermenī, miesā, dvēselī, prātā. Un
So the prayer
Kopā.
says, I pray the spirit of wisdom and revelation so
es
that you
lūdzu
will
gudrības un
know
atklāsmes
God.
garu, lai tu
experience
zinātu
intimately.
Dievu, pieredzētu intīmi.
And
Un
then
Un
the
tad?
eyes of your heart
Un tavas
mind.
sirds acis, tavas sirds prāta
So
acis.
the mind in your heart, you may think that's
Tas
funny, but
prāts
it's not.
sirdē
It's truly true.
liekas ļoti smieklīgi, bet nē, tā
Okay.
ir taisnība.
There is a mind in your heart.
Tavai sirdī ir prāts.
The mind's eyes will.
Tavas sirds
Come
prāta acis atklāst,
You will suddenly see through the veil.
apgaismotas tiek.
You
Pēkšņi
will
tu
understand
ieraudzīsi,
what's behind that veil.
sapratīsi, kas ir aiz šī dambja.
The deep mysteries of the
Tas
Spirit.
dziļās gara gudrības.
So that the eyes of your heart will be enlightened.
Lai
so
tavas sirds prāta
that
acis ir apgaismotas,
you can
lai tad tu
recognize
varētu atpazīt
your destiny,
savu likteni,
your high
savu aicinājumu, augsto
reward.
augsto
You have
apbalvojumu.
no idea the reward to
Tev nav ne
which you are
jausmas,
called to.
kas ir tā alga atalgojums, uz ko tu esi aicināts.
But you can't get there
Bet tu tur nevar tikt
without the spirit of wisdom,
bez gudrības gara,
revelation,
atklāsmes gara,
experiencing God in
pieredzot
Christ
Dievu,
in your
Kristu
body, soul, and spirit,
savā prātā, dvēselē un miesā.
and recognizing
Un atpazīstot
the revelation
atklāsmi
of your reward in
par
Christ.
savu balvu atalgojumu Kristu.
It goes on.
Tas turpinās.
Then you can partake. That means you can actually apprehend. You can actually
Tad tu vari
take something.
piedalīties. Tu vari reāli paņemt kādu daļiņu no tā.
So if I have a beautiful bowl of fruit here,
Ja man
just
šeit ir skaista augļu bļoda
multiple
trauks,
colored jewels of
dažādām
fruit, and
tādi briljanta augļi man te.
I say, isn't this beautiful?
Un es
Isn't this
teiktu, vai
really
šis nav
beautiful?
skaisti?
Would you like some?
Vai tu vēlies?
Try.
Pamēģini.
Try.
Pamēģini. Droši.
Take one. Nope.
Nē,
Nope. You don't have the right hand.
tev nav pareizā roka.
So the word here, you partake. In other words,
Šeit tas
it's
vārds
there
ir-
all the time, but you couldn't get it. You
Tas
couldn't
visu laiku
actually
bija tur
partake
klāt,
of
bet
it.
tu
You
nevarēji
couldn't
īsti ņemt
apprehend it.
dalību, īstu paņemt tā kā arī
Now
īsti.
you'll be able to apprehend. You'll
Bet
be able to
tagad tu varēsi
partake
ņemt
of the
dalību.
full
Paņemt to
graces
visu to žēlstību,
of the rich inheritance
bagāto mantojumu
from the Father,
no
from
tā
God,
tēva,
given
no
to
Dieva,
whom? His
kas ir
heir,
kam
the
dots,
Son, of
savam
course,
mantiniekam,
given
savam
to
dēlam,
who? His
kam
bride, of
viņa
course,
līgavai,
us,
protams,
us.
mums,
Imagine
iedomājies,
being the
iztēlojies,
heir to God's
ka tu esi
inheritance.
Dieva mantojumu saņēmis, ka tu esi mantinieks
When you
Dievam.
can get your head around that,
Nu, kā tu to galvu vari,
then
lai
you
to saprastu?
understand Malachi
Tad
1.
tu saprati, kāpēc Malahijas
Oh,
pirmajā
Micah,
nodaļā
sorry,
saka.
Micah
Nē,
1.
Miha,
I'm sorry.
I don't know.
Micah.
Kas ir Maika? Mihas.
Yeah.
Mihas grāmatā.
Where he says in the first verse, I hate Esau
Kur viņš saka, es ienīstu Īsai.
and I love
Ēzavu.
Jacob.
Un es mīlu Ēzavu ienīstu un mīlu Jākabu.
Not because Jacob was a great example or paragon of virtue.
Nevis tāpēc, ka Jākabs bija kaut kāds brīnišķīgs,
He
šķīs,
certainly
likumīgs
was not.
cilvēks. Ļoti tāds nebija.
But if you read on, you discover that
Bet ja
God
tu turpini
hates
lasīt,
Esau for one thing and one thing only.
Tu saproti, ka viņš ienīst Ēzavu viena iemesla dēļ.
He took the inheritance of
Viņš
God
paņēma Dieva
and he
mantojumu
threw it
un
like
aizmeta.
throwing a bone to a
Kā
jackal
kaulu
in the
aizmetu
desert to
sunim.
gnaw on. That's
Nā.
why he hates.
Tas ir tāpēc,
Esau.
ka viņš ienīst Ēzavu.
Take that in.
Saņemiet šo.
Absorb that.
Apdomājiet, absorbējiet to.
I did a lot of soul searching when I first read that.
Kad es izlasīju šo, man bija ilgu laiku bija tādi dvēseles meklējumi.
Am I throwing parts of God's inheritance away?
Vai ir tā, ka es kādas daļas no Dieva mantojuma savā dzīvē metu
Am I
prom?
throwing them like a bone to a
Vai es
jackal in the
tā
desert?
pametu kā kaulu šakāļiem tuksnesī?
Well, let me tell you something.
Ļaujiet man jums kaut ko
If
pateikt.
we think we are above that kind of act, we are wrong.
Ja mēs domājam, ka mēs neesam piedarīgi šādai darbībai, mēs kļūdamies.
We're going to move on here in just a minute
Mēs
to
pēc
gifts.
mirkļa dosimies tālāk par dāvanām runāt.
If I take the gifts within
Ja
me,
es
given to
paņemu
me that are
dāvanu,
Christ himself,
kas ir kā daļa no Kristus manī,
and I sell them to the world for provision,
un es tās sēju pasaulē, lai būtu man kāda labvēlība,
you can count yourself along with Esau,
tu vari sevi pieskaitīt pie Ēzava.
because
Jo,
we have thrown the inheritance
jo
of
tu
God,
esi pametis savu mantojumu,
like a prostitute throws her body
kā prostitūta, kas pārdod savu miesu
for money
naudai,
and attention
uzmanībai,
to the world,
pasaulē,
which is run by Satan.
kura tiek valdīta Sātana.
Okay, so in Ephesians,
Efeziešiem
we understand
mēs saprotam
through Paul's prayer
caur Pāvila lūgšanu,
that we're on a journey
ka mēs esam tādā ceļojumā,
to gain wisdom,
lai
revelation,
iegūtu gudrību,
to
atklāsmi,
become enlightened and
lai
see,
būtu apgaismots un
have
redzētu,
eyes that truly see, ears
būtu
that
acis,
truly
kas tiešām
hear,
redz un ausis, kas tiešām dzird
and understand
un saprot
this journey.
šo ceļojumu,
So we can, like Paul in Philippians 4,
lai kā
at the
Pāvils,
last moment of our
Filipiešiem
life, be
4.
reaching,
nodaļā, ka mēs
reaching
pēdējā mirklī vēl sniedzamies un
for that
sniedzamies
destiny, that
pēc
high
šī
calling, that
augstā
first place.
aicinājuma, šī likteņa,
Paul
tā
understood
augstā
the reward.
vieta. Pāvils
Paul
saprata
understands
balvu,
rewards.
to algu.
So let's look at the number one word, outcast.
Nu tad paņemsim to pirmo vārdu, ko mēs pieminējām, ir izraidīts.
So the first thing we must understand is that we, along with Adam, are outcasts. We were
Mums
thrown
ir jāsaprot, ka
out
mēs
of the
līdz
garden.
ar Ādamu esam izraidīti no ēdenes.
So from the time Adam and Eve were thrown out of the garden,
No tā laika, kad Ādams un Ieva tika izmest ārā no ēdenes dārza,
and all the seed that comes after them, of which
un
we
visa
are,
tā sēkla, kas nāk pēc viņiem, tiek izmesta turpat,
we see
mēs redzam,
that the earth has never been anything other from that time except at war.
mēs neko citu neesam redzējuši uz šīs zemes un pasaules, kā tikai to, kad mēs esam karā.
The world has been at war
Pasaule ir bijusi
since the time of
karstāvoklī
Adam.
no Ādama
A
laikiem.
spiritual war.
Garīgs karš.
So Satan is the prince of this world.
Un Sātans ir šī kara
He
princis.
considers it his territory.
Viņš to uzskata par savu teritoriju.
And he is working
Un viņš
has been
strādā,
working.
jau strādā ilgi,
from that time
jau no tā laika,
to annihilate the seed of woman on it.
lai iznīcinātu sievas
To
sēklu
corrupt
uz tās,
and overtake as many
Lai
of the seed as he
korupcētu
can
lai nozaktu pēc iespējas vairāk sēklas, cik viņš
and
var,
destroy
un
it.
iznīcinātu to.
So when we bring people to Christ
Kad mēs atvedam cilvēkus pie Kristus,
and we try to sell Christianity
un mēs cenšamies pārdot kristietību,
as an experience, as an
kā
existence,
pieredzi, kā dzīves tādu jomu, kuru tu dari,
in which
tādu
there is nothing
eksistēšanu,
other than joy,
Pieradumu.
peace, kindness,
kurā ir tikai prieks,
long-suffering.
miers
and
un
your life from
labestība,
now on, from this
Un
moment on,
kopš
is
šī
going to
mirkļa
be
tava dzīve
absolutely wonderful,
būs brīnišķīga,
with no negative
bez
opposition.
jebkādām negatīvām pretestībām.
We are, first of all, not
Pirmām
biblical.
kārtām.
We don't understand the Bible.
Mēs Bībeli paši neesam
Second,
sapratuši.
we are
Otrām kārtām
deceptively
mēs viltojam, mānam,
putting forth an expectation that is not so.
uzliekam tādas ekspektācijas gaidas, kuras nepiepildīsies.
And that absolutely will cause the downfall.
Un tas būs tas, kas izraisīs šo kritienu.
What we need to understand is that
Tas,
the
kas mums
fruits
ir
of the
jāsaprot,
Spirit of the kingdom of God,
ka tā gara augļi no
Joy,
Dieva
faith,
valstības,
peace, long-suffering,
prieks, miers, pacietība
those
vispārējais,
beautiful, 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 beautiful fruits,
brīnišķīgi
ours.
augļi ir
we
mūsu.
have them.
Mums jau viņi ir.
We have them in Christ.
Mums viņi ir
Therefore,
Kristu.
we are like this bird up here in the middle of a frozen, cold winter
Tāpēc mēs esam kā šis putns augstā sasilušā ziemā,
that experiences
kas piedzīvo,
joy,
pieredz
peace,
prieku,
courage.
mieru, drosmi,
while we're sitting
kamēr
at
mēs
the table
sēžam
of our
pie
enemies.
galda savam ienaidniekam.
And it's not fun to sit
Un tur nav
at the
jautri
table of your
sēdēt
enemies.
pie
It's
sava
not
ienaidnieka galda.
pleasant.
Tas nav patīkami.
It can be downright frightening.
Tas var līdz galam būt biedējoši, baisi.
We are sitting there
Bet mēs tur sēžam,
because
jo
we are the opposition.
mēs esam opozīcija.
We are the resistance.
Mēs esam pretestība.
That's who we are.
Tas ir tas, kas mēs esam.
We're the opposition seen and unseen
Mēs esam pretestība, kas ir redzama un neredzama,
to the enemy force
Ienaidnieka
attempting a
spēkiem.
coup on this earth.
kas cenšas šo pasauli pārņemt.
Within us we carry
Mūsos iekšā mēs nesam
unspeakable joy.
tādu neizsakām prieku.
That's why the world doesn't understand us.
Tāpēc tā pasaule mūs nesaprot.
How can you be joyful?
Un kā tu vari priecāties?
Look at what's happening here.
Pasties, kas tur notiek?
We carry within us
Mēs
great
sevi iekšā
courage.
nesam lielu drosmi.
We do not live as a slave to fear.
Mēs
Do not.
nedzīvojam kā baiļu vergi šeit.
No matter how frightening it is.
Lai arī cik tas būtu biedējoši.
This is what Jesus told his disciples.
Tas ir tas, ko Jēzus teica
John
saviem
13,
mācekļiem.
14.
Jāņa
Read it.
13,
Beautiful.
14.
Last time he
Izlasiet
talked to the
skaisti.
disciples.
Pēdējā reize, kad viņš runā ar saviem mācekļiem.
He said, listen, I'm
Klausies,
telling you again, I'm going
es
to
jums
die.
atkal saku, ka es miršu.
Understand,
Saproti?
I am going to die.
Es nomiršu.
You're ignoring this.
Un tu šo ignorē.
You are dismissing this.
Tu to atmet kā
You are
nevajadzīgu.
denying this.
Tu
I
to
am telling you,
noliedz, bet
I
es
am
tev
going
saku,
to die.
es nomiršu.
And it's not going to be pleasant times here.
Un te nebūs jauki labi laiki.
It's going to be dark times
Būs
for you.
tumši laiki tev.
But
Bet,
be of good courage.
bet esi pilns ar labu drosmi.
Do not fear.
Nebaidies,
I give you peace.
es tev dodu mieru.
You will be the carriers of peace
Tu
within
būsi
you
miera nesējs.
in
Tevi
this
iekšā,
time.
šajā laikā.
I will be with you.
Es būšu ar
You will
tevi
not be
kopā.
alone.
Tu nebūsi viens.
I will be with you.
Es būšu ar tevi.
And by my death I have overcome.
Un ar
the
savu
world.
nāvi es esmu pasauli pārvarējis.
The victory is ours.
Uzvara pieder mums.
We are the carriers
Mēs
of the
esam
fruits of the Spirit.
šī gara augļu nesēji.
But there is no way
Bet nav
we
nekāda
escape
veida,
being touched
ka mēs varētu
by the evil of
izbēgt,
our times.
ka tas šo laiku ļaunums mums pieskarās.
We have to understand that difference.
Mums ir jāsaprot šī atšķirība.
And in good conscience,
Un ar
teach young
laba
Christians.
sirdsapziņa māca jaunus
You're not going to
kristiešus.
escape all the suffering. No, you're not.
Tu neizbēgs no ciešanām. No
There are
visām
times
ciešanām
God
neizbēgs.
miraculously will whisk you out of it. That's great.
Ir brīnišķīgi, kad svētais gars tiešām tevi izraus ārā no briesmām. Un
Jā.
tas ir brīnišķīgi. Tā ir, tā notiek.
That's marvelous.
Tas ir brīnišķīgi.
And at His will, He does that.
Un ar savu gribu viņš to
But
izdara.
do not think
Bet nedomā,
you are going to escape
ka
every
tu izbēgsi
negative situation
katru negatīvo situāciju
that
savā
threatens
dzīvē,
to touch you.
kas tevi biedē un tad
But don't
cenšas
be
tevi
afraid.
aizskart.
Don't be
Bet
afraid.
nebaidies.
Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of the end times. Don't be afraid of
Nebaidies
the
no beigu
Antichrist.
laikiem,
Don't be
nebaidies
afraid.
no Antikrista.
Be of good courage.
Esi pilns ar labu drosmi.
I'm in you.
Es tevi esmu mājoju iekšā.
That's why we take communion.
Tas ir tas iemesls, kāpēc mēs ņemam to vakarēdienu.
Partake once again
Mēs jau vēl
of him.
vienreiz
Carrying
pieņemam
life
viņu sevī,
to us.
lai mēs nesam šo dzīvību sevī.
And therefore, you can be sure
Un tad tu vari būt drošs,
we will overcome
ka mēs pārvarēsim
the enemy.
ienaidnieku.
Once we understand that we are an outcast in this world,
Kad mēs saprotam, ka mēs esam no šīs pasaules izraidītie,
that we are at war,
ka mēs esam kara stāvoklī,
we understand that we are cut off from the provisions of this world,
mēs saprotam, ka mēs esam nogriezt no šīs pasaules tādām labajām labvēlības.
so that's why in Ezekiel 16,
Tāpēc Ecehiela 16. nodaļā
the prophecy, vision given to Ezekiel,
ir tā pravietojums, kas tiek dots Ecehielam.
and God says, this is a picture of Israel.
Un šeit Dievs saka, šī ir Izraēlas
I'm
tautas
showing you.
attēls. Es tev
Showing you in
parādu,
a
kāda
picture
viņi
who
ir.
Israel is.
Es tev parādu kā bildi, lai saprastu, kas viņi ir īstenībā.
All right? Israel is this baby, this
Izraēla ir-
aborted, abandoned, bastard baby.
Šis abortētais, pamestais, bez vecākiem bērns palicis. Bērns.
Nobody wants this child.
Neviens šo bērnu negrib.
The umbilical cord is still attached to it.
Nabas saite vēl nav nogriezta. Tā vēl
It
tur
is
karājās.
just born.
Tas ir tikko piedzimis.
It's just born. It's not that the child was a difficult child and the mother abandoned it. No, it was just born.
Šis bērns tikko piedzima. Nebija tā, ka tas bērns kaut ko sliktu darīja un kaut ko jau sagāza podus un tad viņu atmeta. Nē, viņš tikko piedzima.
When we are born into this world, we
Kad
are
mēs-
born an outcast.
Kad mēs piedzimstam šajā pasaulē, mēs esam piedzimuši izraidīti.
And we have no more ability to connect to the source of our creation's provisions.
Un mums nav spēja, kā mēs varam savienoties ar to devēju, kas varētu par mums rūpēties.
Once that umbilical cord is cut,
Kad šī nabas saite tiek pārgriezta,
the child is totally dependent on the world for provisions.
bērns ir pilnībā atkarīgs no pasaules labvēlības.
In the story, this child, of course, if we looked at it realistically, would die very, very quickly.
Šajā stāstā, ja mēs tā reāli paskatītos uz tādu bērnu, viņš ātri nomirtu.
It's lying there in its birth blood,
Viņš
screaming
tur
and
guļ
crying.
savā asinīs no dzimšanas, kliedz un raud.
But the teller of this story, the God figure, reaches down
Bet šī
and
stāsta
picks it
stāstnieks, Dievs, pasniedzās lejā un paceļ
puts
augšā.
it under his cloak,
Paslēp to aiz sava apmetņa,
takes it away,
paņem
provide
to,
for it.
lai par to rūpētos.
God knows we're an outcast.
Dievs zina, ka mēs esam izraidīti.
He knows we have no choice but to depend on the world for resources.
Viņš zina, ka mums nav citu līdzekļu, kā vienīgi būt atkarīgiem no pasaules, ka tā par mums gādās.
If he does not intervene.
Ja vien viņš neiejaucās.
He steps into our position as
Viņš
outcasts.
ienāk iekšā mūsu pozīcijā, kad mēs esam izraidīti.
And he says, here,
Un viņš saka,
I'm
šeit,
going to put you in a house
es tevi ielikšu namā,
where you will have all the
mājā,
provisions you need.
kur tev būs viss nepieciešams, kas tev ir
Now
vajadzīgs.
grow up well.
Izaudz labi,
Grow up well
izaudz kā labs,
so that you can take the destiny I have for you.
lai tad tu vari paņemt to likteni, aicinājumu, ko es tev esmu sagādājis.
And so the child does grow up in Ezekiel 16. It's a girl.
Un 16. Ezekiela nodaļā meitene izaug.
She
Šī ir
grows
meitene.
into a very, very beautiful, beautiful woman, desirous
Viņa
woman.
izaug par brīnišķīgu, skaistu sievieti.
And she is clothed with fine garments.
Tā ir
Jewels.
apģērbta skaistās drānās, skaistās kleitās un dārga lietās.
She's a very beautiful thing.
Viņa ir ļoti skaista.
And he's coming back for her
Un viņš nāk viņai pakaļ,
because he has a destiny for her.
jo viņai ir liktenis, viņai
Once she is
aicinājums,
matured.
kas viņai, ko viņa darīs tad, kad viņa būs pieaugusi.
God's waiting for us to grow up,
Dievs gaida, kad mēs pieaugsim,
to be matured
kad mēs būsim pieauguši
into his character,
viņa raksturā,
so
tēlā
we can
līdzībā,
fulfill that chaste and pure bride prophecy.
lai mēs varētu piepildīt šo tīrās, šķīstās līgavas pravietojumu.
But when he comes back for her, she is not ready.
Bet, kad viņš nāk viņai pakaļ, viņa nav gatava.
As a matter of fact,
Izrādās īstenībā,
she has taken a right angle turn.
viņa ir pagriezusies pa tādu strauju pagriezienu, pa labi.
And she decides to take everything
Un viņa ir izlēmusi, ka viņa
that
paņems
she is
visu,
now, her
kas
beautiful
viņa tagad
body,
ir,
her
skaistais
rich
ķermenis,
clothes, and
bagātās drēbes,
lifestyle, and
dzīves
attract
stils.
the world with it.
un ar to pievilinās pasauli.
So she attracts the men of the
Un viņa
world
pievilina pasaules vīriešus.
and basically gives
Un
away like
pamatā,
Esau her
Līdzīgi kā
inheritance
Ēsaus atdod savu mantojumu, atmet
and becomes a prostitute.
un kļūst par prostitūtu.
If you go on to read now Ezekiel 16, the rest of it, and 17, you find a
Ja tu
very
turpini
sad
lasīt
story.
16. un 17.
Sad
nodaļu,
story.
tas ir ļoti skumjš stāsts.
Because, of course,
Jo, protams,
that will be judged.
par to tiks spriesta tiesa.
And you will miss your destiny.
Un tu palaidīsi savu likteni
You've gotten
garām.
off the track
Tu būsi tā kā no sliedēm nogājis.
and have looked to the world for your identity,
Un
for your,
skatīsies uz pasauli pēc savas
reward,
identitātes, pēc
for
savas
your relevance, your
atalgojuma, balvu,
meaning
par
to the,
savu nozīmīgumu, vērtību šajā pasaulē.
and if you are ever dependent on the world for your resources
Ja tu jau
solely,
kad esi atkarīgs no resursu ziņā no pasaules,
you are walking on a very, very shaky, broken bridge which will break at any minute.
tu staigā pa ļoti trauslu, trīcošu tiltu, kas var salūst jebkurā mirklī.
And cast you down.
Un izraidīs tevi prom.
The world has no faithfulness to you.
Pasaulē nav nekāda uzticamība.
The world is not in blood
tev.
covenant with you.
Pasaulē nav nevienas derības ar tevi.
The world
Nesiec
has no
nekāds cits.
reward for you.
Pasaulē nav neviena balva tev.
The world will only use you
Pasaule tevi izmantos.
and again cast you
atkal.
away.
Izraidīs tevi prom vēlreiz.
If we go on to the second word, identity, we're already
Kad mēs
into it.
dodamies uz nākamo vārdu, par kuru jau mēs runājam par šo identitāti.
When we speak of identity,
Kad mēs runājam par identitāti,
I'm speaking of the encoding in you.
es runāju par to iekšējo kodu, kas tev ir iekšā.
So, if you have a hard drive that's clean for your
Ja tev ir
computer,
cietais disks, kas ir tīrs,
and you want to now use it, it has to be
Un tu gribi
programmed, it has
uzmantot.
to be coded.
tas ir jākodē, tas ir
So-
jāieprogrammē.
There's an encoding into
Tajā ieiet
that
kods,
which tells
Kas
the
pasaka
computer how
datoram.
exactly it will work,
kā tas
what are the
strādās,
specifics of it,
kāda ir tā specifiskā,
and there is no
Specifikācija.
way you can change this.
un nav nekāda veida, kā pēc tam to varētu mainīt.
They say, I'm not a computer person,
Es neesmu kompjūtera cilvēks,
but
viņi
computer
runā,
people tell me
bet viņi man tā saka,
that there's no such thing as really wiping a hard drive clean.
ka nav
can't
tādas
really do
lietas, ka
that.
tu cieto disku riktīgi dabū
Because with the
brīvi,
right tools,
jo
with the
tev ir
right tools
vajadzīgi īstie
and the right chemicals,
priekšmeti,
intelligence
īstie
people can always bring up
ķimikālie, un ka to
The
cietā
original
diska
coding.
programmatūru oriģinālo kodu var izvilkt ārā no tā cietā
So,
diska.
our DNA, physical, our biological DNA is
Mūsu
like that.
DNS, fiziskais DNS ir tāds.
So at the moment of conception,
Ieņemšanas mirklī,
and you can always go on the internet and see these
un
marvelous
internetā var
pictures,
redzēt
yes,
šīs brīnišķīgos
there
attēlus,
is a
ir sprādziens,
that happens.
ir
Isn't
šī
that
gaisma,
marvelous?
kas
Isn't that
parādās.
just poetic? I think God is so poetic. Really, I
Es
say it
domāju,
all
ka
the time.
Dievs ir
He's just
dzejnieks,
so poetic. He's such an artist. you know?
mākslinieks.
So at the moment that the sperm
Tanī
and the
mirklī,
egg
kad
come together,
sperma un olša un satiekās,
there's this
sprādziens,
incredible light
ir šī gaisma.
and an encoding.
Un notiek
Goes
šī
into that
programmēšana. Pirmais kods tiek
Single
ievadīts.
cell
Tagad ir viena šūna,
unity, that oneness.
šī vienotība.
That is your DNA biological.
Tas ir tavs DNS
It's a
bioloģiski.
coding that
Tas ir
cannot
kods,
be changed.
ko nevar
No matter
mainīt.
what you do,
Lai arī ko tu
it
dari,
cannot be changed.
to nevar mainīt.
That's why archaeologists can dig
Tāpēc
up bones
arheologi
that
var
are
izrakt kaulus
hundreds and hundreds of years
simtiem
old,
gadus
even older,
vecus,
and
vēl
turn them
vecākus,
into scientific labs,
un
and they
pārvērst
can
tos
discover
zinātniskajā
whether that
laboratorijā
bone
un
belonged to a man or a
noskaidrot,
female,
vai šis kauls piederēs sievietei vai vīrietim.
and approximately what kind of architecture that skeleton had.
Un
Because the coding
aptuveno
is still there.
skeleta arhitektūru,
You
jo
can't
šis
get
kods
rid of it.
programma vēl joprojām tur ir. To nevar
It's such
izraidīt.
hubris, pride,
Tas ir tik lepni.
to think you could
Iedomīgi.
change God's
Domāt,
encoding
ka tu
just
varētu
because you feel
mainīt
like it.
Dieva
Or because a
programmu,
thought
Dieva
occurs to you.
kodu. Pirmo, ko viņš tev ievadīja.
Absurd.
Tas ir absurdi.
That DNA,
Šis DNS,
biological, has a
bioloģiski.
corollary in the spirit.
viņam ir tāda paralēla garā.
So you also have a spiritual DNA.
Tev ir arī garīgs DNS.
Spiritual DNA.
Garīgs DNS.
The two of them together, because you are body, soul, and spirit,
Tie divi kopā, jo tu esi miesa, gars un
working
dvēsele.
through your physical body and its processes,
Ejot cauri savai, tādai fiziskai būtībai, procesiem, kas notiek.
working through your intellect,
Ejot cauri savam
and
intelektam,
other parts of the brain which give you
un
knowledge
pārējām
about your
smadzeņu
environment
daļām,
and meaning
kas tev
to
dod
the
zināšanu par
world you
vidi,
live in.
par nozīmi, par pasauli, kurā mēs dzīvojam.
Connect to a similar DNA in your spirit
Savienojas ar līdzīgu DNS, kas ir ar tavu garu.
that cannot be changed
Un tas arī nevar tikt mainīts.
because you're unique.
Jo tu esi unikāls.
You're absolutely unique.
Tu esi pilnīgi unikāls.
How much more valuable are you than a grain of sand
Cik daudz vērtīgāks tu esi kā
Or a
smilšu
snowflake.
grauds, vai
or a star
sniegpārsliņa,
in the sky?
vai zvaigzne debesīs.
None of those
Nekas no
have been
tā
cloned.
netiek klonēts.
There is not one
Nav
sand
neviens
grain that is like
smilšu
another.
grauds,
Not one star that
viens
is
tāds
like another.
pats.
Not one
neviena
snowflake.
zvaigzne, kas ir tāda pata, neviena
Do you really
sniegpārsliņa
think God
kā
cloned
kopija.
you?
Vai tu tiešām domā, ka Dievs tevi ir klonējis?
That he had a billion templates and said, okay, now the rest of the
Ka viņam
quadrillion, zillion, whatever
Miljons
it is,
tādas formiņas, ka
creatures are going to fit into those templates, okay?
Tagad
12
radības, kas
godzillion
iet,
there, 7 godzillion there.
3 godziljoni tādi un tie
No,
tādi.
and that is the most
Nē.
beautiful thing about God.
Un tā ir viena no brīnišķīgajām,
You
skaistākajām
are
lietām par Dievu.
unique.
Tu esi unikāls.
You're not just an inclusive mass of Christian souls that will love God and love Jesus as their bridegroom.
Kopums, kuri mīlēs Dievu.
No, I'm going to prove it to you.
Nē, es jums
I'm going to
pierādīšu.
prove it to you. You are exclusively
Tu esi
involved with Christ.
ekskluzīvi iesaistīts ar Kristu.
Inclusively, you are a part of the entire
Nu, tādā-
body of Christ.
Iesaistoties tādā grupā, jā, jūs esat Kristus miesa.
And we will all enjoy
Bet
that together
mēs visi izbaudīsim to kopā,
because we are one.
jo mēs esam viens vesels.
But you are also
Bet-
exclusively
Bet tu esi arī ekskluzīvs,
Rewarded.
izredzēti apbalvots
with
ar
individual,
individuālu,
exclusive
ekskluzīvu
relationship. That's
attiecībām.
why we desire it.
Tas ir tas iemesls, kāpēc mēs pēc tā
We
tik ļoti
desire
vēlamies,
that
cenšamies tam dabūt.
Because it's in our encoding.
Mēs to iekārojam, jo tas ir mūsu kodā.
And God knows
Vai
He's
mēs-
going to bring it to fullness.
Un Dievs zina, ka viņš to kodu
So
piepildīs.
we are desirous.
Tāpēc mēs esam
And we will have
iekārojoši vēlme, griba mūsu ir.
Revelation 12.
Atklāsmes grāmata 12.
Yeah. I mean, sorry, 22:12.
Ne,
Excuse me.
22. nodaļa, 12. pants.
I see the new Jerusalem
Es redzu jauno Jeruzālemi,
coming down,
kas nāk
dressed as a beautiful,
apģērbta kā brīnišķīga līgava,
unbelievably adorned with
brīnišķīgi
jewels and clothing,
izgreznot ar dārgumiem, ar apģērbu.
making herself as beautiful as she can make herself
Padara sevi cik nu
for
skaistu
her
vien var
bridegroom.
savam līgavainim.
And here it comes.
Un šeit nāk.
And he has only eyes
Un
for
viņa
her.
acis ir tikai priekš viņas.
She's entirely his.
Viņa ir pilnīgā viņa.
So when we are talking about
Viņa.
ID or
Kad mēs runājam par
identity,
ID vai identitāti,
we have to understand it's been given you.
mums ir jāsaprot, ka tas mums jau ir dots.
It will not be changed.
Tas nemainīsies,
And it's up to us
un tas
To
ir no
find
mums
it.
atkarīgs to atrast,
to discover it.
atklāt.
That's what our life is about,
Par to ir mūsu dzīve,
is discovering it.
ir atklāt to.
It is absolutely crucial
Tas ir
on the road to finding
ārkārtīgi
your destiny.
svarīgi. Atrast to savu identitāti,
Your
ejot uz savu
destiny
likteni.
is matched up
Jo tavs liktenis
With
ir
your
saskaņots
identity.
ar tavu identitāti.
So one last point on identity.
Nu, pēdējais pieturs punkts par identitāti.
When Jesus stands before the tomb of Lazarus,
Kad Jēzus stāv pie Lācara kapa,
what does he do?
ko viņš saka?
He calls
Viņš
forth with a
sauc.
loud voice,
Skaļā
Lazarus!
balsī. Lācar,
come
nāc
forth.
ārā.
He's calling
Viņš sauc
to the spiritual DNA
garīgo
of Lazarus.
Lācara dēnes,
to whom only Lazarus
kuram tikai
could
Lācars
respond.
varēja atbildēt.
The frequency out of Jesus' mouth
Frekvence,
is
kas
only a
nāca no Jēzus
frequency
mutes,
that Lazarus
bija frekvence, ko tikai Lācars
starts to live. And
no ko Lācars var sākt dzīvot un augšām celties.
deep calls to deep.
Dziļš sauc uz dziļu.
The depth of God's love for us.
Dieva mīlestība pēc mums
So great
ir tik liela,
and
intensīva
individual
un individuāla,
that when he calls to you,
ka tad, kad viņš tevi aicina
it
saukt,
shakes your spiritual DNA.
tas satricina tavu garīgo DNS.
You think I'm kidding?
Tu domā, ka es jokojos?
Ezekiel, dry
Ecehiels,
bones.
sausie kauli.
Go down into that desert
Ecehiel,
where
ej tajā
those dry
tuksnesī,
bones are.
tur, kur ir tie sausie kauli.
And speak the word of the Lord.
Un
Say
runā
to
tā
those bones,
kunga vārdu un saka tiem
bones,
kauliem,
hear
kauli,
the word
dzirdiet
of the Lord.
Dieva vārdu.
And then God says, now
Un tad Dievs
prophesy
saka,
to the breath.
pravieto elpu,
What breath?
Kādu
The breath
elpu?
of God.
Dieva elpu,
The breath that gave
To elpu,
Adam life.
kas iedeva Ādamam
The
dzīvību.
breath that you breathe every day
Tā
in and
elpa, ko
out
tu
of your
elpo
mouth
iekšā
is
un ārā
God's
katru
breath.
dienu, ir
That's
Dieva
why you
elpa.
are alive.
Tas ir tas iemesls, kāpēc
You
tu
are
esi
living on the
dzīvs.
breath of God.
Jūs dzīvojat uz Dieva
When we
elpas.
speak the
Kad
word of
mēs
God,
runājam Dieva
the
vārdu,
breath of God is
Dieva
going into the
elpa.
dry bones.
iet iekšā sausajos kaulos,
They are beginning to shake.
un tad viss
They are
drēb,
responding to
un
that.
tie atbild,
Yeah. And they begin to rise up.
un tie ceļās.
And then God says, and
Un tad
now,
Dievs saka,
now I will put tendons and muscles on them
tagad es likšu uz tiem cīpslus un muskuļus,
so that they can begin to move.
saites, lai tie varētu sākt
And
kustēties.
then I'm going to wrap them in flesh.
Tad es tos ietīšu miesā,
I'm going to put in the organs
Ādā.
and the flesh so it can
Ielikšu
sustain
orgānus, miesu,
their activity.
ādu, lai tie
Yeah?
var uzturēt un būt aktīvi.
And then lastly, I'm going to
Un
cover them in
visbeidzot,
skin.
Es tos
I'm going to
pārklāšu
cover
ar
them as I
ādu.
covered Adam and Eve in the garden
Es tos
with the skins
pārklāšu
of
ar
animals.
ādu, kā
I'm going to
Ādamu
put
un
the
Ievu
skin of
ar
my covering, my blood upon them.
manas asins
And
pār
they will be
viņiem, mans
covered.
pārklājums, un tie tiks pārklāti.
Gosh, such a gorgeous picture.
Tik skaists attēls.
Just mind-boggling. You know, the Bible is just absolutely mind-boggling.
Ziniet, viņi pilnīgi satricina galvu, tā Bībele.
You just go, oh,
Tu tā ārpēc.
you could just be there for all eternity,
Tur varētu visu mūžību pavadīt.
trying to see and participate
Cenšoties
in its
ieraudzīt un
mysteries.
piedalīties pie tajās noslēpumos.
So identity
Tātad identitāte
moves in then to
ieiet mūsos,
gifting.
tajā ieiet tālāk dāvanā.
So if I understand as an outcast,
Ja es tagad kā izraidīts saprotu,
God is going to intervene
Dievs iesaistīsies
through the Spirit and help me
Caur
move
garu.
through
un palīdzēs man iet cauri
this world.
šai pasaulē.
Yeah, I have to find my identity
Man ir jāatrod man
and start
identitāte.
moving in my identity.
Un jāsāk kustēties, iet iekšā manā identitātē.
I need to go to the Word
Man ir jāiet pie vārda,
to see who I am,
lai redzētu, kas
to
es esmu,
understand this identity.
lai saprastu šo
The
identitāti.
world does not have your identity.
Pasaulē
They
tā
don't
identitāte
know
nepieder.
who you
Viņi
are.
nezina, kas tu esi.
Do not let the world tell you
Neļauj
anything
pasaulē teikt
about
jebko
your identity.
par tavu identitāti.
Only God
Tikai Dievs
knows who you are.
zina, kur tu esi, kas tu esi.
In the Psalms it says, I will awake in the morning
Psalmos saka, es modīšos no rīta,
and I will look fully and directly into
Un
your
es
eyes,
pilnībā un precīzi tieši skatīšos tavās acīs.
and I will know,
Un es zināšu,
and I will be fully satisfied.
un es būšu pilnībā apmierināts.
If we want to
Piepildīts.
know who we are,
Ja mēs gribam zināt, kas mēs esam,
spiritually, biologically,
garīgi, bioloģiski,
what design we were made,
kas ir tas dizains, kurā mēs tikām
we will
veidoti,
only find that
mēs to
by
atklāsim
intimacy,
tikai
face-to-face
Intīmi,
intimacy
aci pret aci
with Christ.
ar Kristu.
We will look into his eyes
Mēs skatīsimies viņa acīs,
and we'll see the reflection
un mēs
of ourselves
redzēsim
in
savu
his eyes.
atspogu viņa acīs.
Finding that identity was revealed to me
Atrast šo identitāti man
about 8
tika
years
atklāta
ago.
kādus 8 gadus atpakaļ.
And I was in Germany. It was
Es
on
biju
Good
Vācijā,
Friday.
bija piekdiena,
And it was a little tiny Bavarian farm village, just a
bija tāds
few people.
mazs bavāriešu tāds ciematiņš, kur tikai audzēja
I was
dzīvniekus.
sleeping in my bed and I
Fermeriem.
awoke
Es gulēju
at
savā gultā un es pamodos
5 o'clock, a little
5
before
no
5,
rīta,
right at dawn.
tieši rītausmas laikā.
And I was awakened by the silence.
Un mani pamodināja klusums.
I know that sounds antithetical, but I was.
Nu, tas liekas
I
neticami,
was
bet tā ir.
awakened by the silence.
Mani pamodināja klusums.
When I woke up,
Kad es pamodos,
I felt I was in a tomb.
es sajūtos, ka es esmu kapā.
There were no sounds.
Nebija nevienas
Now,
skaņas.
a Bavarian country village. always has.
Bavārijas.
There are dogs,
tādā,
there are chickens, there are cows.
Ciematā.
Cows love to be
Tur ir
milked at
govs,
4 in the
sūņi,
morning.
kaķi, tur ir govs visu laiku mūmauj. Tur
There are
nav
tractors, there
Tur
are
ir
all
traktori.
kinds of sounds.
visādas skaņas, tur visu laiku ir.
There was nothing.
Un pēkšņi nekā nebija.
Absolutely not a cricket.
Pilnīgi pat nesienās.
Not only that, but the sound had a weight to it.
Ne tikai tas, ka bija klusums, bet tam klusumam bija svars.
I felt pressed down by it. I
Es
felt
sajūtu, ka tas mani
oppressed by
nospiež.
it. I felt as if I was going further and further.
Es jūtos,
and
ka es
further
eju dziļāk,
into the
dziļāk tajā tumsā,
earth.
tajā tumšajā zemē.
And I started to pray
Un es sāku lūgt
and think about this is Good Friday.
un domāt, ka nē, šī
This
ir tā
is-
lielā
yeah.
piekdiena.
I started to think about the crucifixion.
Es sāku domāt par krustā
I
sišanu.
started to see Christ on the cross.
Es sāku redzēt Kristu pie
And I
krusta.
started to weep and
Un es raudāju,
I said,
un es teicu, Dievs,
why did you do that?
kāpēc tu to izdarīji?
How could you have given your son that assignment?
Kā tu varēji iedot savam dēlam tādu uzdevumu?
And the Spirit
Un
said to me,
gars man teica,
ask the son.
paprasi dēlam.
And so I began to ask
Un
Jesus,
es lūdzu, prasīju Jēzum,
I want you to tell me
es gribu, lai tu man pasaki,
how you could have done that, how you could
kā
have
tu to varēji izdarīt,
chosen freely
kā tu varēji izdarīt,
to
izvēli
move
to
through
brīvi,
all of
iziet cauri tam visam,
the rejection, the
atraidījumam,
betrayal, the
nodevībai,
brutality,
tam brutalitātei,
pain, the
sāpēm, ciešanām,
the warring with
tam
hell
karam
itself.
ar Herodu, ar
For us.
Elli cīnīties, mums
Look at
dēļ.
us down here.
Nu, paskaties uz mums te
We
lejā.
are total mess.
Mēs esam pilnīgs bardaks.
Just look at us. It's not
Paskaties
like
uz
you're
mums.
doing that for something of great value.
Nu, nav tā, ka tu to dari
Look
kaut
at us.
kādēļ, kam ir liela vērtība, bet tu paskaties uz
Look
mums,
at how unfaithful we are.
cik mēs esam neusticami,
How inconsistent we are.
tādi nepastāvīgi,
How dismissive we are.
tādi, kas atmet visu pār.
And you know what he answered to me?
Vai jūs ziniet, ko viņš man atbildēja?
He said,
Viņš teica,
that's because you don't know
tas ir
who you
tāpēc,
are.
ka tu nezini, kas tu esi.
You do not know
Tu nezini
your value,
savu vērtību,
your worth to me.
savu vērtību man.
You are living so far
Tu dzīvo tik
beneath
tālu zem
your destiny
sava likteņa,
that you can't see it.
ka tu to neredzi.
If you knew of what kind of value you were to me,
Ja tu zinātu, kādā vērtībā tu esi
what I
man,
receive
cik
from
tu man
loving
esi
you,
vērtīga, ko es saņemu,
you would
tevi
understand
mīlot, tu saprastu,
that I would do that every day
ka es to darītu katru
if
dienu,
necessary.
ja tas būtu nepieciešams.
That's how valuable you are to me.
Tas ir tas, cik vērtīgi tu esi priekš manis.
And as our prayerful dialogue went on,
Un kad mūsu šis lūkšanas pildītais dialogs
I
turpinājās,
I
es
said, well,
jautāju,
that is true. I don't see that.
tev ir
I
taisnība, es
don't
to neredzu.
understand that.
Es nesaprotu.
But how can I?
Bet kā lai es to
How can I
saprotu?
come to see what you see in me?
Nu, kā lai es ienāku tajā, ka es redzu to, ko tu redzi
And
manī?
he said, I am not hiding anything.
Un viņš teica, es neko neslēpju.
In vernacular terms, I'm an open book, okay?
Un tādos vienkāršos
read it.
terminos esmu atvērta grāmata, nāc izlasi.
He said, the problem is you're
Viņš
trying
saka,
to
tā problēma
read
ir, ka tu centies izlasīt
what I feel for you from a
to, ko
distance.
es jūtu pret tevi no
You are
attāluma
walking
liela.
on a path
Tu ej pa ceļu,
that's not close enough
kas nav pietiekami tuvu,
to look into my eyes.
lai redzētu un lai ieskatītos manās acīs.
So only if we are walking
Tātad
side by
tikai tad,
side
ja mēs ejam sāns pie sāna,
can I look
vai es varu paskatīties
and see
un redzēt
yourself in my eyes.
sevi tavās acīs.
The closer you align your will
Jo vairāk un
with
tuvāk
me,
tu pieskaņoji savu gribu ar
the
mani,
closer our pathway becomes.
jo tuvāks būs mūsu ceļš.
Until finally
Līdz visbeidzot,
you're living in
Tu
my
dzīvosi.
reflection of you.
manā attēlā atspulgā, kā es tevi redzu.
And this is really the way we begin to understand
Un tas ir tas veids, kā mēs
our
sākam saprast
identity and
savu
discovering it.
identitāti un atklājam to.
Taking the word and holding fast to it
Ņemam vārdu un pie tā turamies.
and working in our everyday life to
Un
live
strādājam
by
savā
it.
ikdienā, lai dzīvotu tajā.
We are not perfect. We fail. We
Mēs
get
neesam
tired. We
ideāli.
get discouraged.
Mēs, mums nesanāk, mēs nogurstam, mums izjūg tā plāns.
But those are just like small toddlers learning to walk, okay? They
Bet
don't
tas ir
get
tā
to
kā
walk good
tie
for a while.
mazie bērniņi, kas cenšas pirmos soļus
They get
spērt.
up and
Viņi
they
vēl
fall
īsti
down
nemāk.
and they-
Viņi ceļās augšā un
Yeah,
nokrīt.
go back to crawling for a while.
Atkal
and they
bišķiņ parāpo
get up
kādu laiku.
again.
Un tad atkal ceļās.
But they want to walk.
Bet viņi grib
They're
iet.
designed to walk.
Viņi ir paredzēti,
They
ka
are
viņi
encoded
ies.
to walk.
Viņiem ir tas kods, ka viņi
And
ies ar
walk
divām
they
kājām.
will.
Un iet viņi ies.
And with good mentoring parents.
Un ar labiem un
They learn
vadošiem
faster
vecākiem
than
viņi
without
aizies
them.
ātrāk vēl ar viņiem.
We are moving
Mēs ejam
every day
katru
closer,
dienu tuvāk un tuvāk
closer through the word
caur
into
Dievu
that
vārdu
alignment
šajā
where we
saskaņā,
understand.
kurā
our
mēs saprotam
identity.
savu identitāti.
Before I move on to
Pirms
giftings, I
dodos
want
uz
to say
tālāk uz
one
tām
more word.
dāvanām, vēl vienu.
In identity, be very careful
Identitāte esi ļoti
about
uzmanīga
labels.
par šabloniem, par
The world will give you a
precizīmēm.
label.
Tā pasaule
Very
iedos
quickly.
tev uzrakstu.
They will say,
Ļoti
you are
ātri
this,
nosaukumu
you are
piedos.
that.
Tu esi
Oh,
tas.
she's that.
Viņa ir
he's
tāda, tas ir tas.
Don't ever accept a label.
Nekad nepieņemiet šādus
Ever.
vārdus. Šādus
Not even one
uzrakstus sev.
that maybe the church in an absent moment gives you.
Iespējams, pat, kad baznīca tev kādā trūkuma mirklī iedod kādu nosaukumu.
God does not deal in labels.
Dievs tādos
You are unique.
nestrādā. Tu esi
You're
unikāls.
absolutely unique. You do not fit a label.
Tu nepiedaries kādai
You take on a
grupai.
label and
Ja tu
you
paņem
will
šo
find
uzrakstu.
yourself trying to manifest that label.
Tad, kad tu pieņem šo uzrakstu, centies piepildīt to savā dzīvē, ka tu
Trying
tāds
to-
esi.
Do things that agree with that label.
Darīt lietas, kas ir saskaņā ar šo uzrakstu.
And if you find something in you that isn't in agreement with that label, you
Ja
will
tu
lose
atrod kaut
heart.
ko savā dzīvē, kad nesaskan mans uzraksts ar to, ko es daru, tad tev viss sabrūk. Tev
And you will
sirds
say,
salūst.
oh, this is who I thought I was, but I see now I'm not because I have this other thing
Un tu
here.
saki, es domāju, ka es esmu tāds,
I'm
bet
back
tas man
to square
nekur
one.
nesanāca, un tad es
Yeah.
atkal neesmu tas, kas, kas tad es atkal esmu?
No. You are a unique creation.
Tu esi unikāla
Let God
radība,
put it together for you.
ko Dievs tevī visu salika.
Moving into giftings.
Par dāvanām
This is
tālāk.
the thing that fuels our walk toward our destiny and toward
Dāvana
understanding.
Ir kā degviela, kas mūs pabaro, lai mēs varētu iet savā liktenī.
The gift of God within you.
Dieva dāvana, kas ir mīt tevī.
Nobody in this earth is without the gift of God within you.
Neviens šajā pasaulē nav bez Dieva dāvanas.
Again, specific, unique gift.
Vēlreiz, specifiska, unikāla
yours
dāvana,
and only
kas pieder
yours.
tev, tikai tev,
Because nobody else has the DNA identity
jo nevienam citam nepieder šis identitātes
to
DNS,
bring the gift
lai izceltu
into a
dāvanu
place of manifest,
tādā vietā, kur tā parādās,
or I should say, into
Manifestēs.
manifestation, into a place where it is manifest.
tādā vietā, kur tā ir manifestējusies, parādījusies dzīvē.
If we read once again in Revelation,
Ja mēs vēlreiz atklāsmes grāmatā lasam,
okay, it says,
tur
That
sacīts,
Jesus is speaking, I am coming.
Jēzus saka, es
Soon.
nāku drīz,
I'm coming soon.
es nāku drīz,
And I am bringing my gift with me.
un es nesu to algu ar mani, dāvanu ar mani.
What does that mean?
Un ko tad tas nozīmē?
He is the
Viņš
gift.
ir šī dāvana.
Jesus Christ.
Jēzus
is the
Kristus ir dāvana.
And Jesus Christ is of such enormous, immense
Un
scope
Jēzus Kristus ir tik liels,
that
plašs
there's a
un
particle,
pārklājums, ko viņš var darīt.
I am told by
Un ir tāda-
physicists,
Tā,
again, this is second-hand
Sadaļiņa.
knowledge.
Atkal, no otras puses
I'm not a
zināšanas.
physicist.
Es neesmu fiziķe, bet
But
man
again, I
fiziķi
have a
saka.
lot of actual physicist PhD friends.
Bet man ir tāda fiziķa ar savu lielo grādu, pazīstami zināmi
And they
draugi.
tell me
Viņi man saka,
physicists only talk about particles
fiziķi runā tikai par daļiņām,
because they're the smallest increment
jo tas ir tas
of identity
smalkākais identitātes fragments.
in matter. Yep. So
Jā,
I'm using that word
matērijā.
in that sense. Yeah.
Es to vārdu ņemu no
There is
tādā
a
jēgā
unique
sapratnē.
particle
Tu
of
esi
Christ.
unikāla Jēzus Kristus daļiņa,
that he gives to you.
ko viņš tev ir piešķīris.
He gives himself
Viņš sevi
in all
iedod
believers
katrā
the gift.
ticīgajā,
of himself.
sevi kā dāvanu.
That's why we take the blood.
Tāpēc mēs ņemam šīs
The life
asinis,
is in the blood.
jo dzīvība
We
ir
take
asinīs.
his life.
Mēs paņemam viņu dzīvību. Viņu dzīvību.
Spiritually,
Garīgi.
there it says that Christ seeds his life in you.
Ir teikts, ka Jēzus iesēja savu dzīvību tevī.
Like a
Kā
seed
sēklu,
in the womb of life.
kā sēklu dzīvības klēpī.
And that seed is unique.
Un šī sēkla ir unikāla.
Once again, it's for you to discover.
Un atkal tā ir tev, lai tu
And that's what
atklātu
we are
to.
doing down here,
Un tas ir tas, ko mēs šeit darām.
is discovering this.
Mēs atklājam to.
Yeah. What is the great verse in Proverbs? It's
Kas ir
the
tā lielā raksturvieta?
glory of it's the
Solomon
glory of God to
pamācībās ir
hide and the something of kings to uncover.
search.
What is it?
treasure.
Treasure. Yes. Do you know the verse? I always get the two verbs mixed up. It's the what of God to cover.
Ir brīnišķīgi raksturvieta Salomona pamācībās, kur viņš
One
saka,
is the
ka
glory.
vienam ir
I got it.
Viņi cenšas atcerēties to
It's the
raksturvietu,
glory of
tāpēc.
God
Ir Dieva
to
slava,
hide the treasure.
paslēpt
It's
bagātību,
the
dārgumus.
honor
Un
of
ir
kings
gods
to find
ķēniņiem
it. That's
to
it.
atrast.
I always get that.
Ķēniņu gods to
Mixed up.
atrast. Es vienkārši, kamēr sapratu,
So it is the glory to the glory of God. He has hidden the particle of
tātad
Him
Dieva
in
slavai,
you,
viņš ir paslēpis šo dāvanu
and
tevī.
it will be an honor to
Un
you
tas būs
as a
tev gods,
king, priest,
kā
and
ķēniņam,
prophet
kā priesterim, kā
to
pravietim,
discover it
to atklāt
and manifest it into the world.
un manifestēt, pierādīt, parādīt, iedzīvināt dzīvē.
So, if the gift within you is a particle of Jesus Christ Himself,
Ja šī dāvana tevī ir daļiņa no Jēzus Kristus,
If all the particles of Christ were manifest into the world, what would we have?
Ja visas Jēzus Kristus daļiņas, kas mūsu katrā ir ielikt, un tās visas manifestētos, kas mums būtu?
Just think about that for a moment. Okay, let's just say there's yeah, let's just say there's 3 zillion particles of Christ, yeah?
Teiksim, ka ir 3 gaziljoni Dieva daļiņas.
Each one is out there in an individual, unique creation.
Katra no tām ir katrā Dieva radībā.
Each one has matured and developed that gift till they have been able to manifest it into the world. What do we have
Katrs
then?
to dāvanu ir audzējis un piepildījis, līdz tā ir pieaugusi, un tā ir parādījusies pasaulē. Nu, kas
We
mums ir
have
tagad?
the total understanding of
Mums
who
ir
Christ is.
pilnīgā sapratne, kas ir Jēzus Kristus.
The manifestation
Viņš ir
of Christ
parādījies.
in the world through
Jēzus Kristus
our
ir šeit
manifesting
pasaulē
our
parādās caur mums, caur šīm dāvanām.
And what is that for?
Un kam tas ir paredzēts?
We go back to the Adamic mandate in Genesis 3.
Mēs atgriežamies pie mandāta no 3. mūzes.
God
Pirmā
created
Mūzes.
Adam
Jēzus radīja Ādamu
and said, we
un
give
teica,
you
mēs
the
tev
entire
dodam
creation
visu
to
radību,
govern.
lai to pārvaldītu.
What does govern mean?
Ko nozīmē pārvaldīt?
Govern means to manage in
Tas
such a
nozīmē
way,
menedžēt, sakārtot,
to
vadīt,
manage, to take
tādā
care
veidā
of,
rūpēties,
in such a way
tādā veidā,
that what you are managing, what you are taking care of becomes prosperous,
ka tas,
profitable.
par ko tu pārvaldi, par ko tu rūpējies, nes peļņu, nes augļus.
And breeds more life and more
Un
prosperity and
vairojās,
productiveness.
veido vēl dzīvību,
of life.
un veido labklājību,
That's the
dzīvību.
Adamic covenant. I mean,
Tas ir Ādama.
mandate, excuse me, the Adamic mandate.
Tas ir Ādama mandāts.
The mandate given to Adam,
Tas ir Ādamam dots mandāts
govern
valdīt.
the whole creation.
Valdīt visu radību.
I trust you, Adam. I give it to
Es tev
you. We
uzticos,
give it to
Ādam.
you. It's the plural.
Mēs tev
the
to
Trinity.
piešķiram. Visa trīsvienība to viņam
We
piešķir.
give it to you.
Mēs tev to iedodam.
Trust. We trust you. Govern.
Mēs tev uzticam.
Govern.
Valdi.
Okay? We know the rest of that story.
Nu, pārējo stāstu mēs zinām, ja?
However,
Bet tomēr
the mandate has not changed.
mandāts nav mainījies.
That is still the mandate.
Tas vēl joprojām ir mandāts.
The gifts within us
Šīs dāvanas
are what
mūsos
we will govern righteously.
ir tas, ar ko
the
mēs
entire
valdīsim
creation of God.
taisnīgi pār Dieva radību.
And we start in that governance,
Un mēs
with
sākam
ourselves.
šo valdību paši ar sevi.
And that starts with holding fast to
Un
the
tas
word.
sāks, ka tu stingri pieturies pie
Keep
Dieva
reminding
vārda.
yourself the word is not verbal language.
Atgādini sev, ka vārds nav verbāla
The
valoda.
word is the intentional
Dieva vārds
will
ir
of
nodoms,
God
Dieva
for this
griba
earth
uz šīs pasaules.
expressed
Izteikta,
in the symbols of
izpausta
words.
vārdu simbolā.
So,
Simbolos vārdos.
Proverbs 1.
Salamana pamācības pirmā nodaļa.
You should memorize Proverbs 1.
Šito
Great.
vajadzētu iemācīties no
Just
galvas.
Great. Yeah. So, it says, these are the words written by
Tur ir teikts, šie ir vārdi, kas tiek pierakstīti
the teacher, yeah?
no mācītāja, Salamana
If you,
mācītāja.
they're written by David, actually son
Dāvids
of Saul.
pierakstījis,
Not son of Saul,
bet, nu,
but you know what I mean.
jā, jūs zināt, kas tur rakstīts.
If you learn them, learning
Ja tu
means
tos
to
iemācies,
be able to incorporate them into your life,
tu tos savā dzīvē spēj, nu, tā teikt, iemiesot,
you will reign, you will govern successfully your own life.
tu veiksmīgi pārvaldīsi pats savu dzīvi.
That's really important.
Tas ir ārkārtīgi svarīgi.
How many people say, how many times in their life, I don't know, my life's a total mess, total chaotic mess, I can't seem to get it all
Cik
together.
daudz reizes jūs esat dzirdējis, ka cilvēks saka, man
Can't
dzīve ir
seem to make
pilnīgs,
sense out of my life, I can't
pilnīgs
seem to get
bardaks,
things
neko nevar
done, I
saprast,
can't...
nekas nevar izdarīt, neko nevar, viss ir pilnīgā
I'm not reigning in my own life. I'm not
Un tas nozīmē,
governing
ka
my
es
own
nevaldu savu
life.
dzīvi. Es nevaldu pats pār savu dzīvi.
How can I govern in a family?
Un kā lai es pārvaldu ģimeni?
How can I govern my family?
Kā lai es pārvaldu savu ģimeni?
If I can't govern my family, how can I govern my city?
Un ja es to nevaru, kā lai es pārvaldu pēc tam pilsētu,
My state government?
savu
My
valdību,
federal government?
savu federālo valdību? To
My
valdu?
participation in the citizenry of the world?
Manā piederīgā kā pasaules iedzīvotājiem.
No, the Adamic mandate starts with us.
Nē, Ādama mandāts sāks ar
Individually.
mums katru
We're the
individuāli.
first thing we have to know how to govern.
Mēs esam pirmā lieta, pirmais, kas mums jāiemācās, kā par
And
to
the Bible
valdīt.
says,
Un
if
Bībele saka, ja
we hang on
mēs
to that
pieturamies,
word which reveals the intentional
Dieva
moral will
vārda.
of God,
kas nāk no Dieva nodoma gribas,
we'll be successful.
mums tas izdosies.
It will teach us.
Tas mums
It will
iemācīs.
form Christ within us. That's what it
Tas
says.
veidos Jēzu
It
Kristu
will
mūsos
form
iekšā.
Christ within us.
Ka Jēzus Kristus mūsos mājo.
And we will be able to govern.
Un mēs būsim spējīgi
So,
valdīt.
in moving on to the end here,
Un Tagad virzoties uz
the
nobeigumu.
gift is Christ himself.
Dāvana ir Jēzus
A
Kristus
unique
pats.
part.
Unikāla Jēzus Kristus daļiņa.
It is fueled or moved along by our identity. It matches our identity. We're
Tās
a match for
degviela
one another.
ir mūsu identitāte. Un mēs esam viens otram pieskaņoti.
And it will begin to create
Identitāte un dāvana ir
desire.
pieskaņots. Un tas
Desire.
veidos vēlmi.
Desire to move into that direction.
Vēlmi iet
Desire
tajā pareizā virzienā.
to experiment here in
Vēlmi
this area.
eksperimentēt šajā jomā
And
vai
it will
citā.
begin to give us satisfaction.
Un tas mums dos apmierinājumu.
You know how I know
Baudu.
that working in Latvia all these years
Vai
is
jūs
part
zināt,
of
ka
my
es saku, kad strādājot Latvijā,
is
Baltijā,
that my gift has made that possible
ka mana dāvana to ir darījusi par
and that it's part
iespējamu.
of my destiny?
Un ka tas ir daļa no mana
You know how?
likteņa. Ziniet kā?
It's because it's so deeply
Jo tas ir tik
Deeply.
dziļi,
rewarding
dziļi
and
atalgojoši.
satisfies every desire I have in me.
Apmierina jebkuru vēlmu, kas
That's how I
manī
know.
mīt. Tas ir tas, kā es zinu.
It's part of God's design.
Tas ir daļa
It's moving
no
me
Dieva dizaina
forward.
manī, kas mani
Moving
ved uz
me
priekšu.
toward.
Ved mani uz priekšu.
Could say a lot more, but I'm going on here because
Varētu
otherwise
teikt
we're
daudz
going to
vairāk, bet
be
es
at
skatos
dinner
arī pulkstenī.
time. Okay.
Sadāk mēs te vakariņās smēksim tikai.
Okay. And what we will develop is our fourth word, character.
Nu tad ceturtais vārds, šis raksturs.
So as we begin to move toward this gift's motivation
Kad
and
mēs ejam
understand
tālāk
our
pēc šīs
identity,
dāvanas motivācijas, mēs saprotam identitāti.
we will run into obstacles. We will run into resistance. Why? Because we're at war.
Mēs ienāksim pie šķēršļiem.
We are at war.
Mums būs
Way
pretestība,
back.
jo mēs esam karstāvoklī.
Verse-
Atceriet pašā sākumā.
Word one.
Pirmais,
Understand you at war. When you wake up in the morning, understand
kad tu
you are
pamosties
at
no
war.
rīta, saprot, ka tu esi
Your job is to
karstāvoklī.
resist.
Un
Your
tavs
job
darbs
is
ir
to oppose
pretoties.
today.
Tavs darbs šodien ir būt opozīcijā.
Sometimes seen, sometimes unseen.
Dažreiz redzamā, dažreiz
So
neredzamā.
if you get up in the morning with
Ja tu no
that,
rīta piecelies
you're
ar
ready.
šo apziņu, tu esi gatavs.
yeah, you're prepared
Tu esi sagatavojies
for the early spring. Yeah.
tam agrajam pavasarim.
Okay. So as you move
Tālāk, kad jūs virzaties uz
in
priekšu,
opposition,
šajā
in
opozīcijā,
resistance,
esot
you
pretestībā,
will be developing virtue
jūs attīstīsiet sevī tikumus
or character.
vai raksturu.
You will be developing the virtues of courage,
Tev būs drosmes
the virtues of
tikums,
faithfulness,
uzticamības tikums,
loyalty, the virtues
lojalitāte,
of self-sacrifice,
tikums, ka tu vari sevi upurēt
the
kādam,
virtue of being truthful, honest.
Būt patiesam un godīgam ir
The
tikums.
virtue of compassion.
Līdzjūtība kā
Kindness.
tikums, labestība,
The virtue of patience.
pacietība.
That you develop only
To
by
tu
your
attīsti
gift
tikai
moving
caur
in
to, ka
opposition
dāvana
to the enemy.
Iet pretēji pret sātana opozīciju.
Enemy wants your gift.
Ienaidnieks grib tavu dāvanu.
Absolutely, he covets your
Vai,
gift
kā viņš iekāro jūsu
because it is
dāvanu.
Christ.
Jo tas ir Kristus.
He wants to take it out
Viņš
of
grib to
operation.
izņemt ārā, lai tā vairs
So
nestrādā.
that part of Christ will never be revealed.
Lai tā Jēzus sadaļa nekad netiek atklāta.
So like the prostitute in Ezekiel
Kā šī
16,
prostitūta Ecehēla 16.
don't
nodaļā
sell it to the world.
nepārdod sevi pasaulē,
Yeah. But move against the move against the enemy in resistance.
stājies pretī ienaidniekam pretestībai.
Okay, moving to the last really important word, reward or
Vispēdzot pēdējais šis atalgojums,
Our
balva,
destiny
mūsu likteņa alga.
is the reward.
Mūsu liktenis ir šī alga,
When Christ
atalgojums,
says,
balva.
I am coming
Kad
soon,
Kristus saka, es nāku drīz,
all the Christians go, oh, I didn't hear soon. Okay.
visi saka, es nedzirdēju to drīz.
Because all the atheists go, so what does that mean?
Jo visi ateisti, ko tad tas nozīmē?
I don't see him.
Es
Yeah.
nekur viņu neredzu.
You must be believing false prophets.
Tev laikam tie viltus pravieši.
No, it's because they simply don't understand
Nē, tas tāpēc, ka tu vienkārši nesaproti.
that he's already come.
Viņš jau ir atnācis.
Okay, hasn't come the next time.
Viņš vēl nav
Physically
atnācis
on
otro
this
reizi
earth, that's
fiziski uz
still
šo
ahead of
pasauli.
us.
Nu,
He
tas
will.
vēl mēs gaidām.
But that isn't what he meant.
Bet tas nav tas, ko viņš bija
That isn't what he
domājis.
meant in John 14 when he says to the disciples,
Nevis tā, ka
don't
viņš saka,
fear.
jā, 14.
Be of good courage
nodaļā, kad viņš runā uz
because I
mācekļiem,
am with you.
kur viņš saka, esiet labi, ejiet, dariet darbus, un jo es esmu ar jums.
Well, how can you be with me if you're dead on the cross?
Kā tu vari būt kopā ar mums, ja tu tur
I
nomiri
don't
uz
get
tā
it.
krusta? Es nesaprotu.
Oh, you will.
Kā
Very
tu
soon.
sapratīsi ļoti drīz?
Because I'm going to share some bread
Jo es ar tevi
And wine
dalīšu
with you.
maizi un vīnu,
and I'm going to symbolize
un es simbolizēšu,
I'm going inside.
kad es eju tevi
I'm
iekšā.
coming into
Es
you
nāku tevi
in an
iekšā.
intimate way
Tādā intīmā veidā,
like you have not yet
tā kā tas vēl
experienced.
nav piedzīvots.
And I'm not
pieredzēts.
leaving
Un
you.
es tevi neatstāšu.
I will be
Es
with
būšu
you.
ar tevi.
Don't fear.
Nebaidies,
I'm with you.
esmu ar tevi.
The rewards.
Tās
God is a God of
balvas.
reward.
Dievs ir daļa no šīm balvas atalgojuma.
Jesus has more to say about rewards
Jēzum ir vairāk ko teikt
And
par balvām un naudu,
than any other topic.
kā
in the New
jebkuru
Testament.
citu tēmu, ko viņš runā.
Rewards are again about individuality.
Atalgojums atkal ir par individualitāti.
It's not about competitive.
Tā nav tāda
Value.
sacensība,
It's not
kaut
about,
kāda
oh,
vērtība,
you
kas
got the highest reward, oh, you're not so
tev
good.
ir
you got
augstākā
third,
balva
you got
vērtējums, tev
more, you're
bišķiņ
way down there.
zemāks. Ai,
No,
tev
no,
jau
no, no,
vispār
no.
nekā tur nav.
The rewards are a response
Atalgojums ir
to
atbilde
how you loved and desired
uz to, kā tu
Jesus
mīlēji
and
un
therefore moved in your life.
vēlējies Jēzu savā dzīvē un tā dzīvoji.
And you will be rewarded
Un
for
tevi
that
atbalvos par šo
with more of Him.
ar viņu, ka tu saņemsi viņu vēl vairāk.
More of
Vēl
Him.
vairāk Dievu viņu.
So if down here you didn't have too much desire
Nu, ja šeit
For
jums
him.
nebija baigi daudz tās vēlmes, lai varētu
and you just
dabūt viņu,
wanted an easy acquaintance with
un
Him,
vienkārši gribēja tādas vieglas, nu tādas, mēs tā kā esam pazīstamie,
your reward will be what you desire.
nu tad tava balva būs tas, ko tu gribēji.
Not so much,
Nu, ne tik daudz,
but because you chose it.
bet tu to izvēlējies.
You lived your life in such a way that
Tu dzīvoji savu dzīvi tādā
you
veidā,
moved toward that reward.
ka tu virzies uz to apbalvojumu.
I know people
Es zinu
who
cilvēkus,
believes. They are believers. No doubt that they're
kas
saved.
tic, kas ir ticīgie, un tur nav
But they
šaubu.
don't want too much of
Bet viņi
Christ
negrib
in
baigi
their
daudz
life.
to Jēzus Kristu.
I'm too much for them.
Es esmu pa
Really?
daudz.
They are not comfortable around me.
Viņi nejūtās manā sabiedrībā ērti.
And they will say things like, "Oh, why are you so intense all the time?
Viņi man teiks, nu kāpēc tu tik intensīvi visu laiku?
Just cool. Yeah? Chill.
Pišķiņ nomierinies, atveisinies.
Life is about more than just Jesus.
Nu, dzīve ir pišķiņ vairāk kā tikai tavs Jēzus.
Not for me.
Nu, ne man.
Not for me.
Ne man.
Oh, life is Jesus.
Visa dzīve ir
Every single
Jēzus.
second I breathe.
Katra sekunde, ko es elpoju, ir Jēzus.
So think of reward
Domājiet par balvu,
as the
atalgojumu,
zeal
kā
of your love for
zīmogu
Christ,
par tavu mīlestību pret
which
Kristu,
causes you
kas tevi izraisa
to develop that gift
attīstīt šo
so you
dāvanu,
can give it.
lai tad tu viņam to varētu sniegt.
My grandson had
Mans mazdēls,
I took him Christmas shopping.
es viņu aizvedu Ziemassvētku iepirkumos,
And he bought some little gifts for his daddy and his mommy and
un
his
viņš
sister.
nopirka tādas mazas dāvaniņas tētim un mammai.
And then we wrapped them together and
Tad mēs
we wrapped
kopā
them very nice because I
ietinām
like to
viņus.
wrap Christmas gifts. I
Man
really
ļoti
like to
patīk,
make presentation, you know.
Iesaiņot Ziemassvētku dāvanas, viņai patīk tā prezentācija, un
I
tad
don't
viņi
just throw
kopā
a
to
piece of
darīja.
paper on and I make a whole artistic design. Yeah?
Zini, citi uzmet to papīru vienkārši virsū, un man vajag dizainu iekšā.
So we made them really nice.
Mēs ļoti skaisti
And then we
satinām
put them under the tree.
un nolikām zemē glītis.
And he was constantly coming to me.
Un viņš visu laiku pie manis
He
nāca.
said, I want to give this to daddy now.
Es gribu tagad tev tētim
I said, but
atdot
it's
to
not
dāvanu.
Christmas yet.
Bet
And
es
I
saku,
want
vēl
daddy
nav
to open
Ziemassvētku.
it now.
Jā, bet es gribu tētim tagad iedot.
And the next day,
Un nākamajā
can
dienā,
mommy open her gift now?
varbūt mamma var tagad to dāvanu atvērt.
I could hardly hold him back.
Es knapi varēju viņu atturēt.
He wanted to give that gift.
Viņš gribēja šo
He
dāvanu
wanted
dāvināt.
his mommy to see how much he loved him.
Viņš gribēja, lai mamma redz, cik ļoti viņš
She
viņu
opens
mīl.
that gift, she'll know what I think of her. She'll know how much I love her.
Viņa atvērs to dāvanu, viņa zinās, cik ļoti es viņu mīlu.
That's how the rewards are.
Tas ir kā tās atalgojums balva.
They're what the zeal of your identity and
Tas ir tavas
Your
identitātes zīmogs, tava
move toward
dāvana,
all of
kas
his life,
virzās visu šo
hungered and
dzīvi,
thirsted after.
izsalkuši un izslāpuši pēc šī.
And he is like my grandson.
Un viņš
I
ir kā
can't wait
mans
to give you your
mazdēls.
gift.
Es tev
I can't
iedošu dāvanu.
wait for you to open
Nevar sagaidīt,
me
ka tu atvērsi mani
and see
un ieraudzīsi
what a treasure I've
vienu
saved for you
dārgumu, ko es esmu tev
that you
saglabājis.
couldn't have before because you're not mature enough.
Kur tu nevarēji saņemt ātrāk, jo tu nebija pieaudzis.
Life here on this earth is about growing up
Un viss šī pieredze dzīvē,
Growing up.
pasaulē ir, lai mēs pieaugtu.
so we can experience the adult pleasures
Lai mēs varētu izbaudīt pieaugušu cilvēku baudu
with Jesus
ar Jēzu
and live in a world that
un
we now
dzīvot
know how to
pasaulē,
govern.
kuru nu mēs zinām, kā valdīt.
This is the pathway to your
Šis ir
destiny.
tas ceļš uz tavu likteni, tavu
And
aicinājumu.
It is a lifetime to discover, to work at,
Un tas ir tavas visas dzīves ceļš, ko
to work
atklāt,
at the
uz ko
uncovering
strādāt,
of it.
lai tu to varētu
It's
atklāt.
exciting if you
Tas
see
ir
it spiritually.
aizraujoši.
It's
Ja tu to
really
garīgi
exciting.
redzi, tas tiešām ir aizraujoši.
And then those things that you resist
Un
and
tad tās lietas, ar kurām tu pretojies,
that are such opposition to you,
kas ir tāda
you begin to
opozīcija,
think of them
pretestība pret tevi.
differently.
Un nu tu par tām domā
This
savādāk.
is the birth of one more virtue.
Šitien dzims vēl viens
Yeah,
tikums.
this, and I'm going to work for it. I'm going to go
Un es
for it.
strādāšu, un es iešu uz pilnu
I'm
klāt.
going to give that. I'm going to
Es
make
to
manifest.
atdošu Dievam. Es gribu, lai tas
Jā.
manifestējas, parādās dzīvē.
And I can't wait
Un es
for the
nevaru
reward.
sagaidīt pēc tā atalgojuma, pēc balvas.
He is coming. He
Viņš
has
nāk,
come.
viņš jau ir
He'll
atnācis.
come again
Un nāks vēlreiz.
physically,
Fiziski,
but he has come for you already.
bet pēc tevis viņš jau ir atnācis.
Already. He is here.
Viņš jau ir
He's with
šeit
you.
ar tevi. Amen.
Thank you.
Paldies.
Thank you, guys. Let me thank you, guys.
Mēs tagad pieņemsim vakarēdienu. Pienesīsim 10. tiesu. Un es esmu pateicīga Dievam,
have the communion. We will have the
ka
communion.
mūsu vakarēdienā vadīs
Okay, I think I need
Dieva
to put this away.
kalpone, kas tik dziļi saprot un ir pieredzējusi, kas ir svētais vakarēdienas, kas ir Kristus miesa un asins. Tādēļ paņemsim savus ziedojumus 10. tiesas, un mēs uz altāra liksim Kristus miesu un Kristus asins, un pienesīsim 10. tiesu. Paņemsim Kristus miesu un asins, atgriezīsimies savā vietā, un tad visi kopā baudīsim svēto vakarēdienu.
And then we will what? Communion.
Yes.
So they're going to bring the offering.
Yes, they bring the offering for the 10th, and then they're going to be communion. But she wanted for you to.
Okay.
Yeah.
So as you come to
Kad jūs nākat,
bring your 10th,
nodot savu 10. daļu,
I will take you back just shortly into Exodus and the story of the
es
building of
jūs
the
atgriezīšu
tabernacle.
šajā mūsu laikā, šajā iziešanā no Ēģiptes un sajiešanas telts būvēšanā.
So the tabernacle of Moses was, of course, the first house of God
Sajiešanas telts bija
Built.
pirmais Dieva nams, kas tika uzcelts
in a material way that the people could
materiālā
see it.
kad cilvēki to var
They
redzēt.
could gather into
Viņi
it
tajā
and
iekšā var ieiet,
understand how to
savākt,
walk into relationship with a
sapulcēties,
God they
saprast,
didn't
kā
know.
ieniekt šajās attiecībās ar Dievu, jo viņi pirms tam to nezināja.
So one of our first acts in knowing,
Tad pirmā mūsu darbība,
God,
lai mēs zinātu
as
Dievu,
we spoke about in
jo mēs
Ephesians
par to
1,
runājam Efeziešiem 1.
is to participate in the building of the
ir
tabernacle.
ņemt dalību, lai veidot šo sajiešanas telti,
Because it is the provisionary house where
Jo-
the bread is kept.
jo tā ir tā labvēlība, tā apraudzība, kur to maizi var
And so
glabāt.
God had anointed special artists, Bezalel and others,
Dievs norādīja speciālus māksliniekus,
to build the tabernacle
Viņam-
in every
kad ir
detail
speciāls
as he had
mākslinieks
designed
noteicis,
it.
kurš sekos Dieva dizainam un izdarīs to,
And
kā tas
then
ir paredzēts.
He said, and now we will accept your gifts.
Un viņš teica, nu mēs pieņemsim jūsu
You may
dāvanas.
come and
Nāciet
give your gift
un
so
dodiet
that
savu
we
dāvanu,
have resources to build it.
lai mums ir resursi, lai mēs to varētu celt.
But very important, you are not required.
Bet ļoti svarīgi ir, ka tas nav pieprasīts.
It's your choice.
Tā ir tava izvēle.
Whether you will be participating in the building of
Vai tu
this house
piedalīsies šīs nama būvniecībā,
so you can better know God
lai to labāk pazītu
or
Dievu,
not.
vai ne?
And I think this is a very significant point in that story.
Un, manuprāt, šis ir ļoti svarīgs punkts
It
šajā
was not
stāstā.
required.
Tas netika
It was
pieprasīts.
not like you don't get any manna if you don't contribute.
Kas nav tā, ka, ja tu neatnesi savu ziedojumu, tu nedabū
It was
mannā.
a gift of the heart.
Tā bija sirds dāvana.
It was a gift of the heart that
Tā
you
bija sirds
wanted to
dāvana,
be
ka tu
part
gribēji
of knowing who God
daļa,
was.
kas veido Dieva namu.
So, come and we open up
Nāciet.
the offering.
Mēs atveram, ka jūs varat nākt un dot savu daļu.